Okay, I'm hoping that this is all working. I mean, my phone says I'm actually streaming. I just need to wait for people to join now, because I can't really do anything until people join, because I'm sat here just talking to myself, hoping that the sound all works. I suppose I better type that in the box in case the sound isn't working. Yes, so really just got to wait for people to start. I mean, I suppose I might as well explain what we're doing here for the people perhaps watching. Hello everyone. Hello Knights of Awesomeness. Seeing as you're the first one here, can you hear me? Okay, I need to know that the sound levels are all good and fine to make sure. Because until this is the case, upgrade in progress. Hello, Christopher Slate. Hello. Can people hear me? I know you can see this camera. I'm hoping you can see this camera at the very least. I just want to make sure that you can hear me. Okay, yes, we can hear you, and I take it you can see cameras all good and fine. That's good then. Brilliant. Okay, so in that case, welcome everybody that's joining or is going to join to my upgrade in progress cyber stream. As you can see, we have a plethora of Cyberman kits. Now, these were kits made by, I should have looked this up before I started. I apologize. I will look this up now because there's several people involved in this and I want to make sure that I name everybody. If you give me 1 second, I feel terrible that I didn't look this up before I started. So these kits came from Supreme Customs over on Instagram, and they were in various places. So they were designed by Gallifrey Customs, Toybox and Rassilon, Supreme Customs, and I think Lone Dalek was also involved in 1 or 2 of them. I could be wrong there, but again, I just want to make sure that I'm naming, letting everyone know who was involved in these, because they are absolutely wonderful kits. At the time of this live stream, I've had these kits for quite a while, so I'm not entirely sure if they're still for sale. There will be links in the description of this live stream once it's done to the store it's on. But if they're not up there, I don't know if they're going to plans on reproducing more kits in future and things like that. But either way, they are absolutely wonderful kits. As you can see, I've already done a bit of prep work on these because some of them, you know, doing the things like the priming them and then painting them with overall silver was just easier to do off camera because it would have been a bit tedious to have to spray them on the stream, wait for the paint to dry, respray them, wait for it to make sure it was all covered, respray them, etc., etc. That would have been several hours and it would have been very boring. So what we have here, we have a Nightmare in Silver Cyberman, we have a Danny Pink Nightmare in Silver Cyberman, we have the Wooden Cyberman, we have Ashad, we have a Cybermaster, and then we have the standard Cyber Warrior, and then we have here the what I call the Cybus Cyber Warrior, because this appears in a blink and you'll miss it shot in Ascension of the Cyberman, where they do the zoom out from the ship, and you can see it floating in space, and it's a Warrior Cyberman with a Cybus head. So it's an interesting little variant. So we're going to start with the Wooden Cyberman because ideally I want to get these sort of finished throughout the course of the stream. Some of them are going to be very easy. You know, the Nightmare in Silver Cyberman is just going to be a case of really painting up the blue bit on the chest piece. Warrior Cyberman is going to be very simple bits. But the reason I want to start with a Cyber Warrior between different subjects and things like that. So because I don't know how long I'm going to be streaming for, if I'm honest. I don't know how long this is going to take. So for the time being, I'm going to open it up to just general Doctor Who questions if people want to ask them, and I'll go with my thoughts and things like that. As usual, if you are tuning in later to the stream, please go and check the chat, because it could be a case of that if I don't answer your question, it might be one that I've already answered before, in which case so that will do, I reckon. So I'm going to use, for reference, for people who might be interested. I'm going to use the Eagle Moss statue figure. I think it's an Eagle Moss statue figure. I could be wrong. Because it's got the sort of good idea of the wood grain. Yes, I believe it is the Eagle Moss one. So I don't know how well you can see it on camera. I'm not used to using this, so you can kind of see that this one has a kind of wood grain actually, into the texture. So these are made of 3D printed resin. They're absolutely fantastically 3D printed figures. So this has got a sort of wood grain in it. So what I'm probably going to do for this one to start with is give it a darker paint overall, let that dry, and then afterwards give it a lighter sort of brush over it to get hopefully get the right wood effect. I'm hoping that this is all working all right because I'm not seeing any questions coming in. I hope chat hasn't frozen or something like that. So let us begin. Can somebody just type something in the chat just so I know it's not frozen, because otherwise I'm going to be slightly worried. Alternatively, if the chat isn't working and nothing types in, somebody tweet me or something, because I've got no way of knowing otherwise, annoyingly. I mean, I think... Is that right? Is that all working? I mean, as far as I know, it's all working. I can't see anything my end that doesn't say it isn't working. So if you are sending me messages, I'm not getting them. If you are sending things in the live chat, I'm not getting them. So yeah, if you've got any questions or anything, please ask them. If you already are asking them and I'm not responding, send me a tweet or something, because the live chat's not working my end, unfortunately, and I will have to find a workaround of some kind. So I want dark, don't I? So I want a hint of grey in there as well, I think. So whilst I'm waiting for the chat to pop up, or questions and things to pop up because there's nothing there, or waiting to hear a tweet saying the chat message box isn't working or anything like that, I don't really know what to talk about. Normally yeah, I know I can engage with my audience on the chat box. It's coming up with that, but it's not coming up with anything else. I don't want to learn more about live chat either. So I suppose while I'm waiting, I should say as well. So the no face cam I don't have at the moment, purely because where I currently am with my new desk setup, it's hard to have the face cam pointed at me and basically capture me, because where I'm sitting at the moment, my face cam is sort of pointing. If I'm sat here, my face cam's pointing that way. It's pointing past me. So it's just easier just to have no face cam up and things like that. Right, let's get on to painting up our Cyberman. So yeah, so that's the reason there's no face cam today. I really hope the chat's working. Seriously, if people are typing things and questions and things like that, I'm not getting them. Can somebody please tweet me or something to let me know? Because if you are, oh, hang on, testing. Okay, the chat box is working. Okay, thank you, Neophinis. I should know how to pronounce that, but I don't. I apologise. Yeah, okay. Well, the test box does seem to be working. So maybe just nobody's got any questions. Fair enough. You can watch me paint in silence, like the sound of silence. So yeah, so I decided not to go with the face cam because it was just easier at the moment with the way that things are all set up. I want to try and set it all up so I can have a face cam, because I do like doing the live streams. They are fun to do. It just it's not difficult to do the live streams. They're just, in fact, I should probably take them apart and do them bit by bit rather than all in one. That's probably an easier solution. Yeah, I do like doing the live streams. They are a lot of sort of fun to do and to put together, especially if I'm just doing something like this as a little project. You know, it's a nice simple thing to do. Um, but it means as well I've got so many projects waiting in the wings that I just haven't even begun or finished or started. That I think maybe doing a live stream is a good way to just get through tons of them. You know, like these kits, for example. I've had these kits for so long, and I never got around to doing them. I never even got around to sort of looking at them and putting them together. So I figured it would just be a good time to a good time and a good way to put them together, because they are wonderful kits, and I really do want to give, you know, full credit and full props to everyone who's worked on them and put them together, because not only are they fantastic kits, but they've also managed to sort of fill a gap in the you know, sort of figure line that we haven't got. Personally, I'm still hoping, as much as I love these kits, and you know, I hope, part of me, I tell you what, part of me hopes we do get an official figures of these Cybermen, just purely because we need them. But on the other side, I kind of hope we don't, because these kits are so wonderful. They're so well made that I really would love to see these guys sort of, you know, have the market for these themselves, because they, you know, they've worked so hard on these. They really have put so much work into them, and I think they do deserve to get the rewards of that work, you know, shown through them by getting the purchases. Especially, you know, if these live showing these off again do bulk up and build up some more orders for them and interest in these figures. I really hope it does, because they really are fantastic. Oh, we have questions. Sorry, this is the problem with the face cam. You can't see if I'm looking at it. Missed the first part of the stream. What am I making today? I'll answer that one first. Basically, I've got a load of Cyberman 3D printed kits from the Supreme Customs shop over on Etsy. I bought these quite a while back, so I don't know if they're still ready for sale. Several other people as well were involved in the making of this. I did mention them at the start. I don't unfortunately have that page up because it was something that I neglected to look up. I apologise in advance, or in retrospect, as it were. But yeah, I've had these kits for a while, and I've just decided to start painting them up. So we have the wooden Cyberman I'm doing at the moment. We have 2 Cyber Warriors, different variants. We have a Nightmare in Silver Cyberman. We have Danny Pink, Nightmare in Silver Cyberman. Not Nightmare in Silver, Dark Water Cyberman. Ashad, and a Cybermaster. Hello, Dr. Prime. What is your favourite First Doctor story? This is the difficult thing when it comes to doing sort of stories of specific stories of First Doctors or any Doctors, because it changes. If I'm honest, you know, it depends on what I'm watching at the time and what I'm in the mood. I don't tend to be one of those people. Not that I've got anything against people who have very specific favourites. I'm not someone who necessarily has specific favourites, because, as I said, it changes depending on my mood at the time. It's a bit like sort of it's a bit like takeaway food. I'll sit there thinking, oh God, I really love Chinese, and then I'll, you know, that'll be my thought then. But then I'll change my mind later and think, actually, I want pizza instead. You know, it's kind of like that. I can sit there and say, like, I do love, I love the Daleks. It's the first Dalek story. It's very good. But I'll sit there and think, but, you know, Unearthly Child really is a sort of definitive First Doctor story. And yeah, it'll vary depending on my depending on my mood at the time. Hi, Captain. It's been a while since I've seen your videos. Well, it's always nice to have returning viewers. Although if that is a reference to me having not uploaded anything in a while, as I said at the start of the stream, I'm probably going to say this several times so that people, as the benefit of people as they join. I've just been swamped with work and everything, and it's just been difficult to get things done. And also, to be fair, it's a sort of it's not. I was about to say it's a motivation thing. That's not to say I'm not motivated to do YouTube anymore. But it's kind of, when I've been at work all day, and because I'm now doing a 4-day work week, when I come home and I think, oh, I've got to record something Friday to put up on the Saturday. I just want to relax and chill out, and it's not that it's that I don't want to upload videos. I'm going to put that off to the side to dry a second. It's not that I don't want to upload videos. It's just it's a lot of it's the getting the effort of motivation to do it when I'm sort of going when I've been doing so much already during the week. It's tricky. It's all about finding the right balance, I think, because it's very different for people that do YouTube as a sort of, professional, a professional thing. It is their job and things like that. But at the end of the day, for me, YouTube still is very much just a hobby. It's something that I like to do with my free time, and I originally started doing it because I had an abundance of free time. And I still love YouTube. I still want to keep it going because it really does. I really do, enjoy seeing that people love, the things that I make. And I do get a lot of enjoyment out of making them. It's just getting the motivation to make it and do all the work to upload it that can be a bit difficult when I've, been doing a full sort of, almost, well, if I'm doing overtime, I potentially work sort of a 40-hour week, 40 hours over 4 days. Which again is, that's, I don't have to do the overtime, but sometimes it is needed and things like that, but just generally, I'm doing anywhere from sort of 35 to 39 hours a week, generally over a 4-day week, which I love. I want to make that very clear. I signed up for this. I was well aware of what I was, doing. This isn't some kind of, I don't want people to think, oh, a company can't do that to their employees and things like that. It was all part of a 4-day week scheme. It's all been sorted out. It's all been, it's not there's not anything underhanded going on there. And I love being on a 4-day week. It really does make a huge difference because it gives me more free time. But that free time is something which I value even more now. So it's, I've got to be in, nowadays I've got to be in the right mood to make a YouTube video, because at the end of the day, I don't want to put out content that I am not fully invested and proud of, if that makes sense. Whoops. So I was just catching on the chat. I've got a lot of difficulties getting motivated to make YouTube videos as well. Yeah, it's saying I've still got several kits on standby. Cybermaster, Ice Queen, Ice Warrior, Candyman. I've got the Ice Warrior. I haven't got the Ice Queen or any of the others. I thought about getting a Candyman, but I had to save me money for other things at the time. I take it acrylic paint isn't good for Dalek customs. I mean, I have no problem with acrylic paint on Dalek customs. I use it quite often. It's more about what you do with the paint, I would say, because when it comes to doing any kind of custom, and I think it's probably not just necessarily just acrylic paint, because I mean I'm using acrylic paint for these right now. I would say the thing with acrylic paint is it's very easy. As I said, this could be the case for other paints as well, but I can only speak of acrylics in my experience. It's very easy to find them difficult to work with, because I think when it comes to customs, what a lot of people tend to do, and I'd say this as someone who did this myself until I sort of, worked out what was going on, is it's very easy to put way too much paint on, because at the end of the day, acrylics are water-based, which means they're generally quite thin, and you might need several coats to do something. I mean, even just these Cyberman kits, it's probably going to take me sort of 2-3 coats for this one to be able to really finish it off. And I think what a lot of people tend to do with acrylics is they slather on one massively thick coat. And invariably, a lot of the time, if I get people asking for advice on acrylics and they say, well, I've used acrylics, but it just flaked off, it comes up as saying, well, how many coats did you put on? They're like, well, I just put one, but I really covered it. And it's like, well, that's why it's flaking off, because what's happening is your outside layer is drying, the inside is still sticky. So what I would tend to do for acrylics, especially on Daleks, is just if it takes 5 coats of paint, it takes 5 coats of paint. You know, it's just what it is. At the end of the day, when it comes to making customs, there isn't a right or wrong way to do it in terms of how you work. You know, there are obviously, you know, wrong. I don't wish to say sound big head or anything like that. There are obviously wrong ways to do things. But what I mean by that is it's a sense of it's a wrong way because it won't work. It's not that it's the person being wrong, it's the method. And I think like everyone who's done customs or started customs, it's a learning curve. You know, you've got to start somewhere, you've got to do something, you've got to begin somewhere. So I would say personally use my personal advice is to find what paints work best for you. I work with acrylics because I find them easy to use. Other people use professional model paints, which certainly do have a better finish to them, but I don't use them because I find them difficult to work with. That is simply my personal preference. In terms of Daleks as well, I don't tend to prime my figures using a primer spray coat. This isn't product placement. I'm just answering a question. That is the primer that I tend to use. It works very well because I've primed these Cyberman figures before I've started painting them. I wouldn't normally bother priming Dalek figures because it's just an extra added step that I don't feel like I need to do, because I'm not fussed if it, you know, if the results suffer a little because of my not priming them, that's on me. That's fair enough. But I think if you want better results, priming is definitely the way to go. So yeah, it really does just boil down to personal preference. If you want to paint figures in a certain way, you do you. You know, at the end of the day, it's what you find the best way of working. And if your way of working is a lot different to someone else's, then fair enough. Each to their own. It is what it is. You know, it's not. It's, what would I say? A good rule is, as long as you're happy with the finished results, then you've done it the right way. You know, other people might disagree and they might say that could have been better or things like that. But you know, there's a difference between being helpful with advice and just being needlessly critical. And I've encountered both in my time doing customs, where I've done something that I'm really proud of, and you might get some people turn around and say it looks great, maybe just try doing this in future. It's, you know, as a piece of advice, you know, it's what you've done is fantastic. It's just, you know, this might be helpful to you, and that is helpful if it's worded the right way. But then you get the other times where you look at people and say, I'm really proud of this, and they go, you could have done that a bit better, you should have done this, should have done that. And it's like, okay, that didn't ask in that sense. You know, I'm not asking you to criticize it. I'm saying I'm happy with it. It is unfortunately the way that things go sometimes. But you know, it is what it is. There's not a lot you can do about it. Right, I've got to wait for the wooden Cyberman to coat and dry now. It's drying very quickly, thankfully. So in the meantime, I'm going to start work on the Cybermaster, because I'm going to do his cloak, because that is just plain black. That'll be nice and easy to do. Do not want to mix up the arms. I realise I haven't been reading the chat. I apologise. So look, sorry, I won't just stay for long. Well, I'm very happy to have people joining in, even if they're just joining for briefly. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you. If you're able to get a Dalek from this planet Earth, would you customize it or would you leave it alone? That's a good question. I should say as well that I'm trying to break up this first bit of the chat into Doctor Who questions. I will count that as a Doctor Who question because it is that. But I will do Doctor Who questions for now, perhaps custom questions later, random questions, whatever. But, you know, I'll read and answer questions as they come in because I'm happy just to answer them. So I've gone on a ramble and I've forgotten the question. If you get a Dalek from this planet, would you customize it? I have thought about this, actually, because I would love to get a Dalek from this planet Earth. There's a shop just around the corner from me of a guy who's got a Necros Dalek, and it's wonderful. It absolutely looks fantastic, and I do sort of look at it every now and again and think I'd love to have one. Firstly, I don't have the space. That's the sad fact. If I could, I would. I really, really would. But I do not have the space. So would I customize? Well, first of all, what one would I get is a good question. I do like. I am a fan of the Death to the Daleks color scheme. It's just, it's so, it's. I think it's because it was a one-off. It's just very iconic. It really does sort of look very unique and interesting. And I think that's probably the one I'd go for if I got one. I don't think I probably would customize it just purely because I think if I wanted to, I wouldn't want to spend the kind of money that you have to spend to get a This Planet Earth Dalek, which I want to make it clear, they are very well made props. It's fully worth the price. But I wouldn't spend that level of money on something to then do my own, completely change it or change bits off it, lock bits off it, repaint it. I would keep it as it is. I think if I was gonna have a full size custom Dalek, I'd probably would make it myself. Which one of these days I would love to do. Chances of ever doing it is quite remote because again, I just don't have the space for it. Sadly, it's just not viable. Which I think, to be fair, my other half is quite pleased about because I think if I came home with a full size Dalek, she'd kill me. Um, yeah, so yeah, I don't think it's something that's probably ever going to happen, but I would certainly love to have a full size Death Dalek. If I were to customize it, I don't really know what I would do because it would have to be something that was unique. I wouldn't want to necessarily copy uh, someone else's design. But again, I would sort of look at it and think like, well, if I'm paying that kind of money for something like that, I would potentially fork out a bit more and have it professionally customized. I don't know if This Planet Earth do, Daleks with custom color schemes and designs and things like that. But yeah, if that was the case, I'd perhaps get them to make it themselves because I know it would be I know it would come out looking far better than anything I could customize myself on a full size Dalek. But like I said, I never say never, but it's probably not something that's going to happen anytime soon in the future, sadly. But there we are. And I'll be honest, I would much rather have a full size TARDIS than a full size Dalek. Because a TARDIS is something that, again, that I probably would have a custom design based on, um, a design I made for my own audio series Doctor, either on my channel or, bit of advertising here, a Doctor that I'm soon to be doing on TT Productions 23. So please go and check out that channel. There's some absolutely fantastic stuff on there. If anyone's ever watched the series The Nevers, which was on HBO, it's not on anymore because it got cancelled after one season, annoyingly. But it was a fantastic show about people in Victorian London with superpowers. We're doing an audio based on that. It's absolutely fantastic. Please go and check it out if you like it. It is absolutely wonderful. Sorry, again, I haven't read a question. All right, here's a question. Which non-TV Cyberman design is your favourite? Non-TV design. That's an interesting one because there are lots of random variants of Cybermen. I do quite like the Dark Dimension Cybermen. They were very good. Which obviously, I mean, you could say it was a TV design. However, they obviously never appeared on TV. They did appear in the Supremacy of the Cyberman comics, so I would personally count them as canon. They do exist. They are a thing. Yeah, they were always quite creepy in that sort of Hammer horror-esque way. But in terms of Cybermen designs, non-canon, not non-TV Cybermen designs, it's a difficult one to choose because there are so many variants, and there are, I'm sure, many variants which I haven't seen. I do sort of try to keep up on different Cyberman variants and things like that because ideally my plan would be to have a custom of every Cyberman. I highly doubt that's ever going to happen either because there are so many of them. But I've done sort of quite a few of the niche variants. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Dark Dimension ones for now, but I would probably end up changing my mind later when I find something else later down the line that's a bit more interesting. Not that the Dark Dimension Cybermen aren't interesting, but it's one of those things, like most things in Doctor Who, you think, wow, that's the best design ever, and then something else pops up, no, that's the best design ever, and something else, no, that is the best, and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. What would you do to redesign the Daleks? Now, I've kind of done this on my channel before, where I have I took a new series Dalek, just a simple bronze Dalek. I am not, and this is a bit of an understatement, I am not a fan of classic colour schemes on new series Daleks. I do not get the obsession that people have with that. I just don't think it works. Especially the Imperial colour scheme on a new series Dalek. I think it's just personal opinion. I think is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. It just doesn't work. It looks absolutely horrible, and I'm sorry if other people are staunch. We love it. That's fair enough. Each to their own. But I'm really not a fan. But what I did, unfortunately, I don't have it to hand. What I did is I took a bronze new series Cyberman, and I basically gave it a grey renegade colour scheme. A bit hypocritical of me, given what I've just said. But what I did is I updated it slightly by also making the underbit of the midsection black, similar to the Death to the Daleks design, because, as I said, Death to the Daleks is my favourite one. And so it was something that invoked classic colour schemes, but wasn't exactly the same. It was passable enough for it to be something that looked similar, but is something that is different. And I think that's a good way of doing it, because personally, I really like the bronze design, as in the way it's designed. I've nothing against the color scheme, the bronze color scheme, but I think it is time for it to be changed up. Obviously the last time we had that was with the Paradigm Daleks, and at the time, like many, I was not a fan of the Paradigm Daleks, but later on, they did grow on me over the years, and now I do look back on them with quite a bit of fondness. I do quite like them. But I think that was a bit too extreme of a change. I think it needs to be done very subtly. And I think just a simple colour scheme change for the Bronze Daleks would be the best way of updating them and changing them to give them a bit, put some new life into them. Because we've had them for a good long time now, and I think it's about time that they did sort of properly change them up a bit. But again, if you look back on the classic Daleks, they really don't vary that much in design. There's small changes here and there and things like that, but overall they still remain the same sort of shape, the same basic classic Dalek shape. And I think that's what they need to do with the new series ones. They need to keep them looking how they look, but they need to just change them up a little bit here and there. The only other thing that I would do as well is I would, rather than introduce whole new Daleks, personally, I would reuse classic Daleks. And I know, we've seen classic Daleks in the series, in various episodes, and they look fantastic on screen. But what I mean more is, what episode was it? The pilot, the first episode of series 10, I think it was, Bill's first episode, where they go to, they're traveling around and they end up slap bang in the middle of a skirmish between the Daleks and the Movellans. And obviously the Movellans, it was fantastic to see them on screen as well. I think it was a shame that they went to so much use of, putting all those costumes together or getting the original ones, and then we didn't see that actually much more of the Movellans. I think they need to make a comeback, certainly. But yeah, so we had, a Daleks versus Movellans, and then we saw the Dalek, and it was obviously a bronze Dalek because, the Daleks and the Movellans are still fighting, etc. And it's, it was good, don't get me wrong. What I would have done myself is I would have had a grey Renegade Dalek or a Destiny Dalek instead of a new series one. And so the implication is that this isn't the same war still going on. This is another battle set during the same time. So the Daleks are chronologically at that point the most recent one, and I think that would have really sort of absolutely made that scene just that little bit better if you'd had a classic Dalek in there instead. And I think that is something which I think they could do with again, because when you look at things like, not so much Asylum of the Daleks, because ironically the Daleks didn't have classic Daleks didn't have a huge role in that. Um, but when you look at, say, for example, The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar, you have that fantastic scene of Missy and Clara are outside, and they get accosted by a rather debatably designed CG Dalek, but it's a classic Dalek, and it looks absolutely fantastic. It really does sort of, a Dalek's going to come up, but you just see that and you think it's a classic one. It looks, despite its slight design flaws, it looks fantastic, and it really would have just set that scene off so well. And it was the one thing that I think that was missing from Asylum of the Daleks, was that you had the intensive care unit scene was absolutely fantastic, and you had all of these Daleks that were from past skirmishes with the Doctor, and it's that really does sort of set the tone. And they're all new series Daleks, and I've done my own fan theory to sort of retcon my own ideas of that. But yeah, I think it's a real shame that they didn't get in classic Daleks that fitted the time for that, because I really don't understand why either, because they clearly had lots of classic Daleks on set. They claim to have one Dalek from every sort of era on set, and you look at it and think, like, why could you have not dressed them up and made them look, like the Daleks from those stories? There's one shot as he's running out which does feature a classic Dalek, which I think was actually one of Russell T Davis's own personal possessions. But yeah, it was so underused, and it's so under. It was such an odd way of doing it that I think that it really does sort of sum up what I would do for the Daleks. Is I wouldn't necessarily redesign them. I would just return them and bring them back to what previous ones that we'd had. Next question. So, the idea of bronze and subtle change of the bronzes having rounded dome lights. Rounded dome lights could be certainly quite interesting. Loving the idea of Doctor bouncing up and down the Daleks timeline. It would work so well, because there's so much you could do with the Daleks like that. It really would be something that the fans, I think, would love, because there's, like I said, there's just so much you could do. The idea that these, I love the idea that that it's something that it would depend on the Doctor, first of all, because it would be very dependent on their personality. But I just love the idea of the Doctor facing a current series Doctor, a new series Doctor, perhaps one of the more recent ones, facing off against classic Daleks. And this may have happened in some expanded media. I think it has, actually. I seem to remember. Where you've got a current series Doctor facing off against pre-Time War Daleks, and he basically just threatens them with knowledge of the Time War. And, basically the Daleks are acting really high and mighty, as the Daleks do, and he just turns around and goes, I've seen your future. And it would be really interesting to see the sort of dynamic between that. It's something that I would definitely love to see returns to the classic series like that. Not just the Daleks, but also the Master. I would love to see. I mean, personally, I would say they need to retire the Master for a bit again. Because I think the character is starting to be overused in the new series, and I want to make it clear, this isn't anything against the character. I've loved all the portrayals, all of the portrayals we've had in the new series, especially the more recent ones. Sacha Dhawan and Missy and Michelle Gomez as Missy. They've both been very good, and Derek Jacobi and John Sim were also fantastic in their time. And it was great to see John Sim come back, but I think it is time to retire the Master. He's sort of become, I think he's become the sonic screwdriver of the classic series. He's the thing that you've come to expect. He seems to be the solution to a lot of massive plots, and I think it needs to be retired. However, I do understand the character's appeal and the character's popularity, and so what I would do is I would say, retire the current Master, and the next time, so the way I would play it out The Doctor is facing off against an unknown enemy, and it's clearly, obviously, the Master. You know, it's not subtle. It's very clearly obvious to the audience that that it's the Master, and it's perhaps clearly obvious to the Doctor as well. Uh, and the way that I envision it is kind of sort of classic dramatic, but it's the idea that the Doctor finds the Master, and he's perhaps sat in a chair somewhere, facing away from the camera, and then, the Doctor confronts him, thinking, it's the Master. I've been waiting to see when you turn up again after our last meeting. Blah 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 blah. And then the chair spins round, and it's Beaver's decayed Master, or maybe Alex McQueen's Master in his first TV appearance. Either way, it's the Master, but it's not a new Master. It's a classic one. I would so love to see that, because if you did it right and you made it so it was obviously the Master, but you kept it subtle as to who this Master is, you could just really mess with the audience's heads and really throw them, surprise them if they turn around and it's not the Master you were expecting. Ha 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 ha. But you know what I mean. It would be so good. It would be so good to see it done that way. Because one of the things I loved as well, from Big Finish, is the Dalek Universe series, was the dynamic between a classic Davros and Malloy's Davros and the 10th Doctor. It worked so well, and I think there's so much potential for that in future, because I think the classic series still has a lot to offer, and you could turn around and say, they've milked it for a lot, and they have. I don't get me wrong, they have, but at the same time, I think there's still so much untapped potential with ideas of things returning, and not just the classic series. Like I said, is Big Finish. Imagine if we got Alex McQueen's Master on screen, even just as a one-off appearance. I think it would be absolutely fantastic, and certainly something which I think would keep people, would hook people into the show. But I think it would also perhaps hook people into Big Finish as well, because you perhaps would have suddenly people who are interested to know who this Master is, where this Master's come from, and how he sort of appears, in terms of how he knows the Doctor and his history with the Doctor in this particular incarnation of the Master. It'd certainly be something that could be done. I'd love to see how they do. Because the Master needs to stop overshadowing Cyberman. Yes, he does. It was, they sort of linked them together, and I don't dislike it, but I think they need to sort of start having a bit more independence from each other, because it seems like they've sort of become intrinsically linked, and it's a bit predictable now that when the Master shows up, the Cybermen are going to show up. I'd love to see how they do Beavers with modern makeup if they chose to do the burnt version. I would love to see. This is the thing, okay? If they had Beaver's Master, it would be incredibly interesting to see how they would do his updated burnt version of the makeup. But honestly, I think a great way to keep people guessing would be to have him pre-burnt, because obviously there's some debate over who he was pre-burnt. Personally, I go down the Big Finish route of the two Masters, where he was burnt by his previous incarnation. He wasn't aware of who he was. So I think a great way to really keep the audience guessing would be to have Beaver's Master in it, but he's pre-decayed, so his voice would be slightly different, his mannerisms would be slightly different, his costume would certainly be different. So I would love to see that, because it would be a great outing to see Beavers in his actual appearance, and seeing him actually on screen as the Master before he gets decayed and things like that. Yeah, it would be absolutely fantastic to see. Hello, sorry for my inactivity. I had to pop out for a bit. How are you doing? Customers, I'm doing very well, thank you. So, where we are customers-wise, because I've been chatting for a while. So, that's the second coat done on the wooden Cyberman. I'm still waiting for the paint to dry on the Cybermaster's cloak. So, next, I'm probably going to do the Nightmare in Silver Cyberman. Because all I've really got to do for this one is paint the eyes and the chest piece, which is nice and simple. And that'll be a nice, simple one to get done. I should say as well, what I'm going to try and do, it probably won't be tomorrow, it'll probably be Sunday. It's going to be difficult to show all of these in the stream because obviously I'm using an old webcam, and as you can see from the camera quality, it's not the best thing. Rather than try and hold these up to the camera and show them on, on the stream like that, I am going to do a kind of a series of, I think, sort of custom figure shorts, just doing a quick rotation view of the finished customs of these up on my channel. Probably on Sunday those will be up. There's obviously going to be quite a few of them, but as I said, they'll be going up, and you'll be able to see the finished custom and see how they all look. Where was I? Yes, painting the Cyberman. So I considered, the other thing I considered, just go back to these customs, I considered giving these a black wash as well, just to get a bit of depth into some of the crags and things like that. But I tried it. I'm not sure which one. I tried it on one of them, and it made them a bit too dull. And I much prefer the sort of lighter silver of these. So, it is doable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is anything against the kits or anything like that. It is doable. It's just not something that is easy for me to do on the stream, sadly. But that is the way of things sometimes. At least with the Nightmare in Silver Cyberman, this is a nice, easy one to do while I'm waiting for the others to dry. It's quite a I don't know where I was going with that thought. I've completely lost my train of thought. They are such fantastic kits, though. They really are. Look the part. They really do look the part, and they're really, really so well made. I absolutely love them. I really hope. I should say, as I said, there will be a link in the description to the shop where I got these from, the Supreme's Custom Shops. I don't know if they're still making them anymore. But firstly, I apologise in advance to Supreme's Customs if they suddenly get a massive influx of people saying, "Can we have these kits? Where are we? Where can we get them?" I apologise for that. However, at the same time, I kind of don't apologise for it, because I really do hope that this live stream drums up more interest in these kits, and that gives them, the ability to produce more and sell more, because they are so worth getting. They really are absolutely wonderful kits, and I really do hope that it does boost their sales, because they've put so much work into these. Everyone involved in them, not just Supreme's Customs. And they really do sort of deserve the recognition for that. Speaking of customs, I might do my first ever Dalek, so it's something I consider for. I'll go for it. It's always great to see people doing customs. The best advice I can offer you is just take your time. The longer you take, the better your results will yield. As I said earlier in the stream, far too many people rush through customs to try and get them finished. And whilst they, I'm not saying that if you want to do it quickly, you can do it quickly, but like most things, you take your time. The longer you takes, the better the results. I could spend a good 5 hours doing one Dalek custom. But at the end of the day, I'm happy with the end results, and I would just say that's the best advice I can give to anyone doing customs, is don't rush it. Just it takes as long as it takes. This is a bit of a reference for older viewers, perhaps, if I have any. Anyone who's ever seen the film The Agony and the Ecstasy, about Michelangelo painting the roof of the Sistine Chapel, is a famous quote where the Pope or Cardinal, I can't remember whoever it is, says to him, "When will you make an end?" And he just replies, "When I'm finished." That's very much my attitude towards customs. It will be finished when it's done, and I would highly advise anyone else to do that. Take that advice when it comes to customs. Do it at the pace that you want to work at. There is no need to rush and get things done and get things out. It's all about the results that you want, and so you should take your time. What's going to happen to your audio doctor now? Has he become the agency doctor with TT? No, I was thinking about this the other day actually, and said I should probably clarify this at some point. So the doctor I'm doing with TT is completely separate from my audio series doctor. My audio series doctor, I do want to continue it because I've got so many plans and things like that, but I've just not been able to find the time to do it. Same with my without choice War Doctor audio. I do want to continue doing it. I just haven't had the time. But the stuff that I'm doing with TT is in their timeline of doctors, because they already have several out, and they're all absolutely fantastic. I've not been doing stuff with TT for that long. I think it's, when I say that long, it's probably been a couple of months now. They're such wonderful people to work with, and when it's recorded, it's all recorded live with everyone together, so it really sort of gets, you get more interaction and more sort of bounce off each of the characters when you're doing your lines, and it works so well. And we recorded the first episode of the Agency Adventures the other day. It was utter chaos, but it was brilliant. It was so much fun, and I'm really proud of the stories that I've written for the first series, and for the future series, however many they're going to be. I've got other people coming in and writing it as well. I've already had one script which I was reading over last night, and it's so good, so good. I won't reveal any details, but it's absolutely fantastic, and I'm so excited to record it. But yeah, so my TT doctor is entirely separate from my audio series doctor. They are not meant to be the same incarnation. So to give no, I was going to say, to give a bit of background about agency. I won't. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it is separate from that. It is separate from my audio series doctor. So yeah. So don't go into the TT ones with thinking of with my audio series doctor in mind. Completely separate. Treat them separately. But I would again thoroughly recommend going over to TT Productions and listening to some of their audio stuff, all of their audio stuff, in fact, because it's so good. They've got such variety. You've got Doctor Who stuff, you've got original stuff, you've got things that are based on other shows and things like that. They've done a Last of Us audio, which I had a brief cameo in. Absolutely amazing. They've done they do loads of Paternoster Gang stuff. So good, so good. Absolutely fantastic and brilliant. Really do recommend listening to those. And Tusks of London as well is another great original one they've done. Yeah, there's so much good stuff on there. I really can't sing the praises of TT enough. And you know, as a newbie to the group, they've made me feel so welcome, and in a very short space of time, they've really become they've all become very good friends, even bordering on family. You know, so it really is something that I'm very proud to be part of, and I really would. It would mean a lot to me, and I know it would mean a lot to everyone else involved if people could go and check those out and see what they think. Because it really is something that there's so much work and so much reattach. Oh well, like the head thing. Yes, that would be interesting, because I think there's a lot of potential like that for the Cybermen. The idea that they can sort of reattach themselves. You know, I know that you've got Cybermasters can regenerate, etc. But I think, you know, the idea that this Cyberman sort of rebuilds itself and takes things from, it's quite gruesome, but I think it's good. I do like a good sort of bit of horror stuff. Many thanks for the advice, Cosmo. I was repaint the hemispheres and a history of the Dalek set 6 to the darker blue. Which one was set 6? I should know. Was that the chase? Either way, assuming you mean the silver Dalek, or is that the power? I think it was power. But yeah, repainting those darker blue, that was something which I think they would have been a very good variant to do, because if you look at a lot of the behind the scenes photos for power, they are a much darker blue. I've just realised I'm not painting. I'm talking, which is the point of this stream, I know, but I should be painting as well. Yeah, no, the painting the spheres on a power Dalek's darker blue, or probably other ones. It might not be power. I might be completely wrong, but yeah, it's great. I did it for my I did it originally for my mutant scoop Dalek I made, and It does look the part. Who's the Dalek said is evil. Oh, well, there you go. Evil of the Daleks. Um, Lone Dalek's here. Hello, Lone Dalek. Hello there. What did I miss? So me talking lots of random stuff, but I just want everyone to know. So Lone Dalek is one of the people who is involved in the creation of these kits. I want to say personally to you while you're here, thank you so much for the amazing work you've done on these kits, along with everyone else. They are so good. I've been singing their praises, and I really hope that you guys plan on doing some more, because I'm hoping after this live stream you'll have some more requests for orders come in. So right now, I've done the first 2 coats on the wooden Cyberman. I've done the cloak on the Cybermaster. I'm now doing the Nightmare in Silver Cyberman. That's where we stand at the moment. Yes, absolutely fantastic work on the kits. Thoroughly enjoying making these. So much love for these kits. They are absolutely fantastic and spot on in terms of design. So that is what you've missed. Who did the Dalek set was evil of us on it. Audio keeps cutting out. I apologise if that is the case. Is everyone else having that issue? Audio keeps cutting out, or is that just a one-off thing? I hope it's not something that's going on for everybody, because I don't know how to solve that problem if that is the case. So where was I? Curious. Here's what the TARDIS. Issue like I say, it's evil of the Daleks. Yes. So yeah, the evil of the Daleks as a slightly darker one would work very well. Stream is fine on my end. It's okay. I haven't, as far as I'm aware, because I've got the audio levels. I'm pointing at my screen as if you can see it. I've got the audio levels up on my mic thing, and I don't seem to be having any problems. So I would potentially check your audio on your end, Bile. If not, that sounded like I was placing blame. I do apologise. That's not what I meant. So I would say if you're having problems hearing it, it might be a speaker issue or something like that. It could be my end. I don't know. I don't know what's coming through on the audio. You know, so my microphone is saying the levels are fine. I'm actually almost hitting into the red, which means I'm potentially actually too high. So it could be my end. Having said that, I went out on the 2 kits so far. I did the helmet for the Ashad figure and most of the head for the Cybermasters. I mean, I was gonna say head for the Cybermasters. I was literally looking at those the other day. That's insane level of detail on that. It's fantastic. Really looking forward to painting that one, especially because I just love all the intricate details and things like that. It's absolutely fantastic. Really fantastic. As soon as I'm aware, I'm working on a couple of new projects for Supreme Customs at the moment. Ooh, I am intrigued. Very intrigued. I won't ask for details on the stream because I do love a good surprise, but if it's anything like all the previous work, it's going to be amazing. Don't know why I said it like that, but I did. I'm sitting here painting. Like, I'm getting so engrossed in the painting, but I'm also sitting here just looking at the kit and just thinking it's so good. Thankfully, though, I'm nearly actually almost finished one, and it's looking very good. I would say he is about finished. So I'm going to try and hold these up to the camera so you can see the sort of finished thing. But as I said, I am going to do a follow-up on my channel on probably the Sunday. I'm doing a little custom figure short so you can get a better view of these. But there is my first completed Cyberman. Absolutely fantastic. And I should say as well, these have all got, you know, they're all articulated and things like that. You know, don't want to touch that. Arms all move and things like that. You know, elbow joints, head. Try not to touch the paint. Head movement and things like that. It's difficult to do this because I'm trying to look at what I'm doing here and look at the camera over there so I can see what I'm doing from the front. But yeah, really cannot sing the praises of these kits enough. They are absolutely amazing. Needs a little bit more black around the mouth actually. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I just hope that my painting skills do it justice. We'll call him Bob. No, that's the voice of an angel. We will call him Sam. Sam Cyberman. That's what we need. We're enacting some voice. Bob. Ah, yes, it's the Cyberman. Bob. Right, one down. What was it? 7 to go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 to go. I shall put him on the shelf over here to dry. Right, let's quickly head back to me wooden Cyberman. Which I think, wait, see, that was a close one. I'm getting overexcited. I've just realised, in all of this excitement, I'm not reading the chat again. I've probably got Doctor Who questions, or I think at this point I might just open it up to any question at all, whether you want it to be just have a general Q&A. It can be Doctor Who, it can be customs, it can be personal, if you want. I don't mind. It's an AMA. Am I using that term right? I don't use Reddit. I am curious, what's the oldest newspaper you've ever worked with? I mean, I don't know what the date on this one is, but I've had this one for several years. So this is Christmas. It wouldn't surprise me if this is Christmas from, oh, there you go, 2019. So this is, I'm working on a newspaper from 2019. So that tells you all. Yes, that probably answers the question, actually. It's probably the oldest newspaper I've worked with. December 18th, 2019. How's the progress going? It's going good. We've got, so most of the wooden Cyberman is pretty much nearly all done. I'm sort of just now waiting on things. The thing is, now I've got the debate. Ideally, it could do with another coat of paint to really get the sort of undercoat on there. However, I don't know how it comes up on camera. I don't think you're going to be able to see it. I hope you can. You can sort of see where, because it's only a light coat, it's kind of, you can still see bits of the grey, which side? This side. Bits of the grey primer underneath, and it actually gives it a kind of wood effect. So do we reckon I'm better off leaving it like that, just to really sort of give it a bit more unintended depth to the wood effect? Because I found out I might have to disappear for a little while. I'm out in the shed spraying cyber heads and the signals, but yeah, fair enough. We all have those moments. I need to do some spray painting myself, actually, for something else that I probably was about to say and I shouldn't have. It's nothing official or anything like that. It's a custom thing, but I want to keep it a surprise. Yeah, so yeah, I think I might keep that sort of slightly not unfinished, but underpainted, just to add a bit more depth to it. But if I put the arms back on, he's really coming together very well. So the next step for this guy, it's really difficult to do this on camera because it's backwards to what I'm seeing on the screen. If I think if I need to move it up or down, it's not. My left is my right. It's kind of like using inverted controls. Yeah, so I think the next step is going to be to start on the overall light coat of wood effect, as it were. Fun fact, the Life in the Workshop videos are the introduction to Right Said Fred. Yes, they are. Don't say it too loudly, YouTube might hear. Yes, they are. It was always a bit of a, I don't know why I intended. I think if you listen to most of my intros, they're song related in some case, which is sometimes a bit of a challenge to stop YouTube catching it up. But yeah, it's a fantastic. Love that song. Wonderful Bernard Cribbins, rest in peace, dear fellow. So I think the one that's going to take me the most time, I think, to do all of these actually is probably going to be Ashad, because he's got so much sort of weathering on him. As in, I was introduced to the song through them. Ah, well, I'm pleased to know that I introduced. No scares. I was just making sure. But yes, it's good to know that I've introduced you to the song for it. Such a fantastic song, brilliant song. Highly recommend watching the video if you've never seen it. It's a brilliant little piece of stop motion animation. So sorry, I'm painting off camera. This is the problem I find with doing the live streams, is if I'm recording on my own camera, I sort of have the camera set in a position where I can see it and I can see what I'm doing. Whereas doing a live stream like this, I'm trying to look in 3 places at once. I'm trying to make sure that I'm positioned under the camera. I'm trying to look at what I'm doing, and I'm trying to look at the screen over there. It doesn't help as well. I say it doesn't help. It keeps throwing me off that for those who might be wondering, those tattoos are new, and every now and again I keep catching them out the corner of my eye, thinking, "Oh shit, I've got paint on me." On that subject, I would just like to say, because I want to be responsible, tattoos that I get are important to me. They're something that is special to me. I give them a lot of thought. Do not go out and just get tattoos because you think they're cool. If you want tattoos, really give it some thought. Really put the thought into it, because they are something that you are effectively left with for life. You can get them removed, but you know, don't just rush in and think, "Oh yeah, I want to get a tattoo because they're cool." No, make it something that's special to you. And my rule is, if I am thinking about getting another tattoo, which I am, but again, I'm putting a lot of careful thought into it about where it's going to go or what it is, and I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, I like that idea," and then I go, "Yeah, I like that idea." If I even hesitate or question it for even a briefest of seconds, then I'm not getting it. It's something that I have to be 100% sure about. That's my bit of responsible adulting done for today. Along with, I suppose I should say, the usual: don't smoke, don't use sharp tools if you're a younger viewer, be careful, and be nice to people, rights for everybody, etc.
Just noticed the Impossible Planet and Satan's Pit Doctor has a brown shirt and spotted tie.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, have I done that as a custom? I think I have. But it's weird, isn't it? It's a weird case of choice. And I believe he's also got one of the few times he's wearing black and white Converse as well, for some reason. But yeah, it's an interesting custom, but it was a fun one to make. I think I just used a standard Doctor for that. I don't think there was anything particularly special about it as a custom, but it's an interesting little costume change. I think they should have given Tennant a bit more costume variation, because there were so many things they could have done and they didn't do. I think it was a bit of a shame. But oh well. Okay, I think that's the cloak done on him now. I need to actually look up a reference picture for the Cybermaster, because I can't remember off the top of my head if they have a blue chest unit. I want to say they do, but I don't want to say that, go and paint it, and then be wrong. Place your bets, people, without looking. Do they have a blue unit or don't they? I mean, I'm saying place your bets, and people are going to be typing it in the chat after I found out. Cybermaster, they have the blue light on their heads. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. They do have a blue chest unit. They do indeed. But I'd completely forgotten they've got the blue bit on the head. So something else I'm going to have to do. Time Controller joining in. Hello, what's happening now? We're still doing painting, and I'm talking really random stuff. Bit of a weird one.
Your recent movie Daleks made me make a 3D model of the movie Daleks from the second Peter Cushing movie.
Nothing weird about that. I'm glad. Always nice to know. And I don't mean this to sound big-headed. It's always nice to know that my work, customs and videos and things inspire other people to do customs themselves. Because it really is something which is it's humbling, but it's also at the same time something which I feel proud for knowing that I've got other people into making custom figures and things like that, because it is something which is a lot of fun to make and a lot of fun to do, and I think a lot of people underrate arts and crafts and things like that, because it does, it does teach you a lot. And I'm going to sound very old man now, I apologise in advance. I think far too many people, both old and young, and I'm probably going to include myself in this, spend far too much time just sitting around watching TV, playing games, and not actually doing something and making things. Because it's a lovely pastime, and there's no reason why you can't do both of those things at the same time. Half the time when I'm painting stuff, I mean, put it this way, if I wasn't doing this on a stream, I'd be here painting these, and then whilst I'm sat here waiting for things to dry, I'd be playing a game, or I'd be watching something on my laptop or on my phone or something like that, because I can do both of those things. It's just that the problem is it's far easier to sit down and not do something and watch something than watch something whilst you're doing something else. But yeah, arts and crafts wise, it's something that I would always thoroughly recommend to anybody. It's when I paint, I would listen to Big Finish. I often do the same. Big Finish. I do like listening to a good podcast. There's a few YouTube channels that do sort of mysteries and things like that. I do love a good sort of unsolved mystery, perhaps disappearances, unsolved crimes, and creepy creature things and things like that. Mr. York is here. Hello. I hope you are well, my dear fellow. So, for those people who are wondering, get ready to blush, Jim. But James York is another of the fellows over at TT. He does the absolutely fantastic Queer Doctor adventures. I'm slowly working my way through them. They are wonderful to listen to when I'm at work, because I'm allowed to listen to music and things like that, or anything like that, as long as it doesn't distract me from work. So I'm usually sat there listening to those, working my way through them. They are so much fun to listen to. Thoroughly, I mean, I was about to say thoroughly recommend them on the TT website, but I would thoroughly recommend everything on the TT website. But yes, Queer Doctor Adventures, please go and give them a listen. Please show them some love. They are so much fun. I've even had the pleasure of being in a couple of the more recent ones, and they're so much fun to record, so well written, things like that. So please go and show them some love. It's thoroughly deserved.
To make a huge amount of me to get back into 3D modelling, there's a huge amount to make my movie Daleks. Again, it's lovely to know that my work has inspired other people. It really does. It really does mean a lot to me to know that it's what I do inspires other people, because at the end of the day, I just do what I do because I do it as a hobby. It's something which I just enjoy doing for fun. So knowing that other people are it's inspiring other people to do similar things, it's very humbling. It really is very humbling, and it really does mean more to me than I can say. Yeah, sorry, I got a bit emotional then. On topic of movie Daleks, I'd love to see what you do if you painted up one of the Cushing heads I designed. I have been looking at the Cushing heads, I have to say. I have been looking at them, because I need to make up another mold for my own ones that I've done, which is obviously a redo of the Star Wars one for my custom Cushing figure. But your ones they do look very good, and there's quite a few things that I'm very, very tempted by on there. There's quite a few. There's lots of stuff that's come along of this that are all very very it's difficult to find. I lost my train of thought there. I was going to say it's difficult to find the words. They're very. I know the word. I know what I want to say, but I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Basically, I can't put into words how good the work you've put into them is. Put it that way. It really is something which I think deserves full praise. You know, from all of you as well. You know, because I know obviously lots of other people involved as well. Thank you, Jimmy. Couldn't miss this. I'm always happy to have you here, my dear fellow. I've never made a movie Dalek. I made a custom controller once. In Doctor Who adventure games, we never get an origin to the Vash and Narada at the base. No, we didn't. That's a good point, actually. I've never considered that. I just sort of always assumed that it was, you know, seafloor, ocean. Or no, did we actually? No, we might have very briefly now I think about it, because I can't remember that. But I think the origin for why they're at the base is like the big shark thing. They were pulled through the vortex or the portal or whatever it was by the USS Eldritch experiment going wrong, and that's why they were there. I think. I could be wrong. I will have to double check that and look it up, but I think that's why they were there. Also, on the topic of time controls, will we ever see the time strategist? Now, so time strategist is the one that is like the classic, not the classic one. The classic one is the time controller. The time strategist is the larger bronze one. Well, I'm pleased to say I actually do have a spare one. It doesn't have a back dome, so might have to be slightly inaccurate. But I have had this one on the sides here, on the sidelines, waiting to do the time strategist. So it will be coming in future. It will be coming in future. I just, again, like the many boxes. God, if you could see the amount of boxes I've got down here, full of things, unfinished customs. I've got so much to do. So what are we making today? Well, today we are making several Cyberman customs. We have a wooden Cyberman, we have a Cybermaster, we have a Nightmare in Silver Cyberman, which I've just finished. We have the Danny Pink Cyberman, we have 2 Warrior Cybermen, and we have Ashad the Lone Cyberman. And I've been talking for a while now and realised I'm not doing anything, but fortuitously, I think that means that this paint is dry. So I'm now going to work on doing the next bit of the wooden Cyberman, and hopefully get the overall wood look done. Also, I did the rings for the time strategist and again Supreme Skills. Yes, that again, another reason why I wanted to do it, because I've been trying to model those myself for a long time, and then I saw that you guys had done them. So, I'm definitely going to be in the market for a set of time strategist rings, and make it a hell of a lot easier on myself to make it. Right, what was I doing? Okay, I don't know how well this is going to work. I'm just sort of... This is trial and error a bit. I think I need a bit of dark in there. That's too light, isn't it? I need maybe a bit more. This is the other thing when it comes to customs as well. I often get people say, like, what paints specifically do you use, you know, in terms of things like that. And generally, my answer is I use whatever is either closest or cheapest. That really is the answer that I can give, because I don't tend to use specific brands. I've got bits of different brands of everything. I think I've got some Winsor and Newtons. I've got Lefranc and Bourgeois, and I'm pretty sure I've just got some like B&M bargains and paint somewhere as well. Yeah, I tend to buy whatever is cheapest rather than specific brands. Not that there's anything wrong with... It's too much paint there. Not that there's anything wrong with buying specific brands, but I think it's just... there's, at the end of the day, it's paint is paint is paint. And I know that is a very sweeping statement that is almost certainly not true. There are very different types of paint and very different types, and like most things, some will yield better results than others, and different brands will certainly be more certainly be of better quality. But just generally speaking, I would say just use whatever paint you want. You know, if I can't find a specific colour, I'll just buy paint and mix it up myself. That's pretty much my go-to way of doing things. Which, again, as I said earlier, is my method of working. It works fine for me. Each to their own. You know, if people want to go and buy specific brands, then go ahead. It's, you know, there is no right or wrong way to do things. You can do it whichever way you want. This is definitely going to be way too light, but I think it will still work. And it'll add a bit more depth to it. And this is the other problem as well. Trying to find promo pictures of the wooden Cyberman is difficult because in the show it's very dark. On like the Eagle Moss figures it's very light, and in what is seemingly an official promo picture it's very orange. So I'm kind of going to do, I think, a bit of a... This is going to end up having to be a bit of a personal interpretation over anything else. Because it just makes it that bit easier. And personally, the other thing I would say is 100% accuracy is vastly overrated. Not that there's anything wrong. If people want to make things 100% accurate, you go ahead. Each to their own. And I've realised I'm not reading the chat again. I'm so sorry. To customers, sorry. Never be afraid of talking about things that you're proud of. You know, as long as you're talking about them in the right way, which you certainly seem to be. It does not case of doing that. I've always wanted to do some customs. Oh, Mr. York, it's so simple. There's always a start point, but at the end of the day, best advice I can give, and I mean it's not just to James, but to everyone here. Everyone has to start somewhere, and you know, it doesn't matter what you start doing. If you're just doing a simple repaint, you know, everyone has a beginning point, and that's really all there is to it. You know, it's not. I was about to say it's not difficult. It's not easy at times, but it's also, after a time, not difficult when you start, because you just learn by doing. Learn by doing. Jim, is that 3D printed set? Yes, they are 3D printed Cybermen. These are all from Supreme Customs shops, and they were designed by Supreme themselves, along with Lone Dalek, Gallifrey Customs, Toy Box of Rassilon, and I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting somebody else. I apologise, but there's a lot of people involved in this. There's going to be a link in the description or the pinned comment. If I can have a pinned comment on the stream, I don't know, because I didn't think this through. Either way, there will be a link to these in the description when it's all finished, if people want to have a go at making their own ones. You know, again, I don't know if they're still selling these kits at the moment, but I hope it does generate enough interest for people to want to go and buy some more, because they are absolutely amazingly made kits, well worth the money. They're not overly expensive, because, you know, I know this, and this isn't, I would want to make it clear, this isn't a criticism of everything else. There are obviously other kits and things out there which are more on the costly side, but as someone who makes, you know, some 3D printed kits and things, and myself, you know, you've got to, at the end of the day, you need to make a profit, because that's the whole point of it. But you've also, you know, you've got to charge for the costs and things like that. And I think I've seen a few times, I've experienced it myself actually on eBay, I'm afraid to say, where I've had people asking me for, you know, to say, oh, I'm interested in this kit, can you do it at this price and things like that. And sometimes it's, you know, it's not that much cheaper, but other times I've had things where, I mean, I remember way back in the day when I occasionally did sell a few of my older customs on eBay. I was selling a custom Dalek, and I had somebody basically wanting me to sell it for a £5, and it's like, it cost me 30 quid to make it. You know, I've got to sell it at the cost it cost me to make it, otherwise I'm making a loss. So yeah, so, you know, it is what it is. You know, prices are set that way for a reason, but, you know, personally, I think these are worth every penny. They are such good kits, and they are really, I mean, even just doing the priming and everything I've done, and sorting out all of the, you know, the arms and leg joints and things like that, they're a lot of fun to make. They've really been a lot of fun to make, and I'm really looking I'm really looking forward to seeing how they all come out. Sorry, I haven't done this much talking in a long time. If I get Spring Custom, nice digs on the Cyberman Custom High, turns out 3D printed Cyberman. Sorry, I'm just catching up again. The Ood make an appearance in the bar and show. So yes, it's always nice to see little things like that pop up and things like that. I was just looking at the Doctor Who extra for Time of the Cyberman. The wooden Cyberman is shown there in far better lighting. I have found some things like that for the behind the scenes. It's difficult to find a shot without bringing up the whole thing, but I have managed to find a few of them. But again, you know, maybe this is just me. I'm probably just going to go down my own route and just make them a bit more unique and good, because as I said, for me personally, 100% accuracy isn't bothered. But for people who perhaps are getting these kits or looking at this, there you go. The behind the scenes Doctor Who extra stuff for Time of the Cyberman. Go there to find stuff for the wooden Cyberman. Going for a bit, should return for live setup. If I don't, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining. It's always greatly appreciated. Very much appreciated, because I wouldn't be doing these streams without all of you lot, and it is most fun to do these, and it's nice to sit down and have a little chat. Sorry, this is the problem with doing the live chats, is it's very easy to slip back into my usual habits of sitting here in silence painting. And with that, I sort of lose myself in what I'm doing and forget that I'm supposed to be talking to people. So just ask questions, any questions, anything at all. Then ask me anything, and I will answer within reason. Okay, I think that is way slowly coming together very well. Let's pop his arms back on while he's drying. I think that's come out all right. Again, it's actually, weirdly, it looks... This is a very rare occurrence where it actually looks better on camera than it does in the hand. It's probably just my lighting, but I think that's coming together quite well. So the next step for that is going to be to do the chest unit, which I need to find me orange paint for, me orangey yellow. And then obviously all of the stuff around the eyes. Whoops. Let's do the other side of the handles, because that's where I was holding it. So let's pop his head back on for the time being. I do love the wooden Cyberman design. I think it's such a unique thing to do in the show, such a great idea. Really, really has come out very well. I want to make a queer Doctor figure set. Now you are talking. I'll put my thinking cap on and think about what I can drum up in terms of parts. There'll be something out there. There will almost certainly be something out there. Right, which one am I working on next? Cybermaster is still drying. So let's move on to the Cyber Warriors, because these are again ones that are fairly nice and easy. Because I think for the Cyber Warrior, if I bring up Cyber Warrior, there is actually surprisingly clear pictures of the Cyber Warrior from behind the scenes. Cyber Warrior, come on. My internet's being slow, probably because I'm streaming. Didn't think this through. So on the Cyber Warrior, we have around the arms, the hips, and I think it looks like sort of the back of the knees area is sort of a much... Would I say that's black? I wouldn't say that's black. I'd say that's a dark grey. So we've got that, and then we've got obviously the head. And I think I'm going to break out... In fact, I will break it out. My gunmetal grey paint, assuming that it's still in good nick. It's very calming to listen to ASMR. Oh, thank you. Anyone looking forward to the B&M sets coming this summer? I am. I genuinely, hand on heart, I haven't heard anything yet about what they are, but I am certainly looking forward to them and seeing what they are. Um, so I'm very much in the same position as many of you, sitting there wondering what is coming. Very much looking forward to it. Again, will say I have heard supposed rumours, which I won't repeat because I don't know the truth behind them, and it wouldn't be the first time that things have leaked, and I don't want to be inadvertently responsible for something. But I will say there's a few rumours flying around, which, as far as I am aware, are not true. Again, I won't say what they are in case I'm wrong. I'm just saying my own thoughts about this. But it's basically there are some things that have been rumored. I want to word this very carefully. There are some things that have been rumored, which previously I have asked certain people in certain quarters who would know about, and they have said that it is not something that is likely to happen. So again, I want to make it very clear that I am simply stating what I've heard as what I've heard. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to say what these rumors are and things like that. But from my point of view, I have no reason to doubt what I have been told. Perhaps people who've heard these rumors have no reason to doubt what they've been told. That's fair enough. It's, again, each to their own. But in terms of rumors that are going around at the moment, which may or may not be true, I personally am prepared to take some of them with a pinch of salt. That's I don't want to go into too much detail, and I don't want to say yes, this is the case, that's the case, or this set I've heard this set I've heard that, or that's not coming, that is coming, because I don't know. I want to make that very clear. I am purely stating my own speculation here, and I'm choosing my words very carefully because I don't want to give the impression that I'm suggesting that some things definitely are coming or some things definitely aren't coming. I do have to be very careful about the way I word things and what I say. So that's how the situation is at the moment, as far as I am aware. Whether or not that turns out to be the case, we shall see when the time comes closer to it. But as I said, like many of you, I am in the position now where I am also waiting to see what happens. If I had a personal choice, because this is probably going to come up as a question not before long on this subject, I would love to see if money was no object, first of all, because I appreciate the budgetary limits and constraints of this. If money was no object, my choice for the next TARDIS set would be a Time and the Rani set, or a Ultimate Foe set, which came with the Sixth Doctor in his Trial of a Time Lord outfit with the TARDIS, but it also came with an interchangeable head for Sylvester McCoy and Colin Baker, so you could have a sort of variant of that. Hopefully, we might get to see that one day, because I think a Sixth Doctor TARDIS set is something which I think a lot of people would love. Alternatively, the other thing that I would actually like to see on that note, because again, I am only stating what has been, I believe this has been publicly said, or it, if not, is certainly something which I think speculation dictates that this is the case. The reason that there haven't been that many Sixth Doctor variants is simply due to the amount of paint application needed for his costume, which I think is perfectly understandable given how many different colours and designs and patterns there are on his coat. So in the interests of a Sixth Doctor
TARDIS set, I think a good idea for a variant would be a real-time set, which you could have with the TARDIS, obviously the Doctor's TARDIS, Sixth Doctor TARDIS, obviously. Don't know why I had to keep repeating that. And then a re-release of the real-time variant, but in order to make the original one in its box still stand out more, if you look at some of the like design artwork for real-time, he does have more of a kind of turquoisey colouring to his coat and overall look, and I think you could do a real-time re-release that would be different enough to preserve the look of the original release, but be different enough for it to appeal to collectors and things like that, because again you could make it a little bit more accurate. So that would be my route. That would be my route I would go down, is to do a Sixth Doctor TARDIS set. Would love a classic companion range. That would be amazing. Or a survival set. Survival set would be very good. I think a survival set certainly would be a good one to do. And I have to say, normally with the survival set, I always thought it would be quite difficult to do it, because you would have to essentially make a whole new body for the Ainley figure. However, when you look at, so for example, the unit soldiers we had was basically just the Brigadier figure with a new wrap on it. I don't see any reason why you couldn't do the same thing. Use that same base Brigadier figure, because essentially it's a normal figure. There's nothing particularly unique to it being the Brigadier, outside of the head and the body wrap, torso wrap. Take that base Brigadier figure and put a new wrap on it in the style of Ainley's survival coat and waistcoat, tie, so whatever he's got, everything like that, all the belt stuff, and just make a whole new wrap for that. It would work so well. It really would work absolutely brilliantly. You know, it's a very it would be a very simple variant to do, and I think it would be certainly one which would be popular, especially if it, you know, if you came with the, you know, you had the Seventh Doctor, you had Ace in it, and you know, Ainley's Master would definitely be one. On the subject of the Ainley Master, actually, an often repeated thing, and I have said it myself, is that there was always a thing that we could never get further Ainley figures due to the problems with his likeness, his estate, the rights to it. It turns out that may not be true. I think I've mentioned this before on other videos and things like that when it's cropped up, but whilst I'm on the subject, I will say it now. Yeah, it turns out that may not be the case. So exactly why we have not gotten any more Ainley figures, I do not know. I don't know the true reason. But apparently the whole thing of it being a rights issue is not the case at all. So that certainly leads a level of intrigue as to why we haven't had one for a long time, because you would certainly think it would be very popular. But for that reason as well, I think again a Planet of Fire and even just a straight up re-release of the original Ainley figure in a Planet of Fire set, I think would be greatly received. You know, even if he's not in his proper costume, just in his, you know, the suit and tie variant, and you could potentially make the you could make it different to the original by having him in his sort of slightly silvery appearance, which again was prototyped up. I have one of them. There's several of them out there. But at that point, again, I don't know if people would go for it, because I think more people would want him in his normal appearance rather than having a sort of silvery faced version. But, you know, hey ho. Something else just occurred to me, an idea of what I would like to see. Something to do with, was it a TARDIS set? I can't remember. It's gone. It'll come back to me. But something I mentioned on Jimmy, did you see the Emperor Dalek prototype? If you're referring to the one on eBay, I did. It is not what it appears to be. I believe Al
actually talked about this himself on a forum post where it was posted, and he confirmed it's not one of theirs. And I know that there's some people going, oh well, he would say that, but personally, if Al says it's not one of theirs, I would believe him. Um, I don't. He hasn't got any reason to mislead or lie. I say in inverted quotes because I don't think he has. Um, yeah, as far as I'm aware, if he says it's not one of theirs, then I'm inclined to believe him. It's a shame, but I am. It's a lovely piece. It is a lovely piece. Um, so did you see the Emperor Dalek prototype? Is it the Emperor from Dalek? No, this is Emperor Dalek from Evil of the Daleks. So for those not aware, a while back, floating around on eBay, there was a Emperor Dalek figure, which seemed to be from Evil of the Daleks. It seemed to be a prototype piece, and I believe. Now, I could be wrong. I want to make it very clear that I am just saying what I remember. I may be entirely wrong. I believe it was being sold as a character options prototype. If that is not the case, I apologise. I don't wish to make it seem like the seller was deliberately misleading people. It also could be, if that was the case, that the seller didn't know, they assumed it was. So, again, I don't want to cast any aspersions or criticism specifically towards the seller. We all make mistakes if that's the case. But either way, it was a what seemed to be a proper prototype of the Evil of the Daleks Emperor, which was supposedly a character options version, and long story short, it turned out not to be the case. Yes, because it also had wheels for some bizarre reason, which again, people sort of looked at it and it was a very sort of similar design to the Dalek wheels you have on a classic one, so it sort of seemed like something that character would produce, but there was no branding on it or anything like that. There was nothing to really suggest that it was a character one, and it was a very strange piece. I don't know if it's still available on eBay. I believe the price was quite high. I think we are looking into triple, possibly even quadruple figures. So if it was real, then I perhaps would have been inclined to pay for that. But as something that isn't real, then it's certainly too rich for my blood. But yeah, it was an interesting looking piece at the very least. Put it that way. I still can't remember what I was going to suggest for a B&M set. It's gone. No, that was it. I've remembered. So I posted it on Twitter a while back. Again, I want to make it clear this isn't an implication of anything coming in future. This is simply my own thoughts and ideas of what I would like to see. Would be a set of TARDIS, but rather than the Doctor and TARDIS, it is the Master and the TARDIS. A set of Master and TARDIS releases, I think, would be absolutely brilliant, because obviously the thing with the Master's TARDIS is it's changed its appearance many times over the years because the communion circuit works. But when you look at the basics, you often had the column, or you had like we've had previous releases of the Master's TARDIS in the form of the computer bank from the Time Warrior and things like that. And you could just have straight up re-releases of those ones. Because we've also had the column as well. But personally, I would love to see them just put a little bit more money into them, probably sell them at a slightly higher price, and then have little features like the opening doors and things like that in a Master's TARDIS. But I think if you had a set of TARDISes with a Master figure to go along with them, it would be brilliant, because you could, I think in the post I made, if memory serves, I used my 3D printed ones, for example. Go and check Thingiverse if you're interested for self-promotion. But yeah, so I had the Delgado Master with the computer bank from the Time Warrior, not the Time Warrior, the Time Monster, which obviously we've had before in an official figure, but I made a version with an opening door, which again would be a nice little extra to see on an official one. So yeah, so you'd have the Delgado Master with the computer bank. You would then have, I'll go get this the right way around, Peter Pratt's Master with the Deadly Assassin version of the Grandfather Clock. You would then have Geoffrey Beaver's version of the Master with the Keeper of Traken version of the Grandfather Clock, which again is another one we have had in the past. But again, I would have it with like an opening door and things like that. And then Ainley's Master with the column version of his TARDIS. I would certainly have that as well. And I just think they would look very good. But you could also have Ainley's version of the Master with his column. And then you could perhaps have... This is where I'm not sure how you'd do it. Because I also did the Iron Maiden TARDIS from the King's Demons. So, personally, what I would do with that is, rather than have a Master and TARDIS set, because it's a bit more niche, I would have the Master's TARDIS from the King's Demons, but as a CO online exclusive, I would have Chameleon in there. Because I think people would be more inclined to go after that than if it was just another set with Ainley. You could have the Master in one of his disguises, but I think it would be better to have something like Chameleon in that set, because A, because I personally love a Chameleon figure, but B, because I think it would be more likely to sell if it was like a CO exclusive version. And then for Planet of Fire, you could have his sort of triangular column TARDIS with the suited version of Ainley's Master. But then at that point, because you would have hopefully had a proper version in his proper outfit in a previous one, the Castrovalva, or whichever Time Flight, whichever one came with the column, it would be a normal suited Ainley in his normal sort of velvet tunic garb. So I think if you did a Planet of Fire one, that's where you could put in the suited Ainley, but you could have him with his sort of slightly more shiny chameleon appearance. I think that would be a good way to release that one, because again, it would keep the original more unique, but it wouldn't throw off the fans if they had an Ainley release with his normal outfit, because at the end of the day, that's really what people want. And I think if you gave them the shiny version without giving them that, they would be a bit more annoyed. But I think if you'd already given them the proper version and then you did a shiny one, I think people would be happy with that. As I said, there's many other different versions of the TARDIS that you could do, variants of the TARDIS. But I think, a set of Master and TARDIS custom, Master and TARDIS customs and Master and TARDIS sets would certainly sell very well, and I think it would be something which people would really would just go for, because the Doctor and the TARDIS sets always sell well. But at the end of the day, why not have the Master and the TARDIS? Because we know he's got his TARDIS, we know he's got several TARDISes, and you could just, it would be a great way to release some sets, because as I was saying earlier, I think personally the Master's a bit overused in the new series, but he's kept because of character popularity. And I think doing a set of Master and TARDIS sets would certainly play up to that popularity, and it would mean that they would sell. People would buy them to have the Master with his TARDIS. So yeah, that's my own thoughts on that. Whether or not people agree with me or not is entirely up to them. I smudged the paint because I'm talking too much. Well, not talking too much is the whole point of the stream, but I'm not paying full attention. Okay, so what do I need to do next on this guy? I need to do the chest unit, head and eyes. So let's do the eyes first. I just realised that, again, I didn't realise, because it's on the, I assumed on the Cyber Masters that they had. Excuse me a moment, I'm going to have to make a horrible noise when I blow my nose. I will try and turn away from the camera. Sorry about that. I didn't realise, until I've just looked it up, that the Cyber Warriors also have the light, blue light on top of their heads. You learn something new every day. I've just realised I've missed a massive piece of that. Just quickly going back to the subject of what I was saying about paints, one brand I do actually, one of the few times I do use a proper brand, again, not product placement, just because people are asking, is the Tamiya brand of, it's difficult to capture on camera, the Tamiya brand of metallic paints, which are acrylics, but they're slightly more liquidy, but they do work very well. They do work very well for painting and things like that, so I would personally recommend them. Right, where was I? Another variant, I just thought, TARDIS variant I would like to see actually, which would be very well received, would be another Fourth Doctor set, which I know people would, you know, turn around and, you know, it's like, we've had lots of Fourth Doctor TARDIS sets. We have, don't get me wrong. But we can't deny that the Fourth Doctor is popular. So I would have a season 18 Fourth Doctor set, but I have, and I've just realised I have it to hand, so here's an exclusive customs preview for everyone on this stream. I would have the hatted version from season 18, which I've just finished, but if I move his scarf, what I've also done on this one is I've given him his socks rather than his boots. And this would be a really good variant for them to do as part of a TARDIS set, I think, because you could have the hatted head, and then really all you would need to do for the legs and the feet would be a new sort of lower leg piece, because initially I thought you could just change the boots, but the thing is, if you change the boots, the peg that the boot's attached to on the leg is so large, the socks would be oversized. So I reckon what you'd probably have to do is create a whole new leg piece down from the knee, which means you wouldn't necessarily have any articulation in the lower leg foot area. But I don't think that would be an issue if you've got the thigh swivel bit in there, which I don't think you have on this figure, actually, having said that. No, you don't. So the legs would be pretty rigid. But I think for the sake of releasing a variant which people would be interested in, I think that's not a bad shout, because I certainly think that having a season 18 hatted Doctor, which we know from many years back was indeed prototyped up. Why it was never made, I don't know. There probably was a reason, probably budget. It usually comes down to something like that. But yeah, it would be an absolutely fantastic one to see released, and I certainly think it would sell very well in a set, because I know people are always after the season 18 Doctor. So putting him in a set with his socks and shoes and the hat version would definitely be one that people would love to do. And I think, you know, maybe maybe this is just me, but I think if we get that as a set and people are complaining that he doesn't have any articulation in his lower legs, I think you are at that point perhaps asking for a little bit too much from effectively what is a toy company producing a budget line, you know. And it is one of those things as well that, you know, it's kind of like, oh, he's got no joint in his lower leg, and it's kind of, you know, it's the same level of things where people complain about accuracy and things like that. And there's a difference between accuracy and pedantry, you know. I'm trying to be very polite here, but what was it I was thinking about the other day so Dalek from a recent set. I mean, you know, you've got on the previous releases, you might have had things where, like, you know, the eye was slightly different, or the slats were slightly off, or something like that, and people would turn around and go, "Oh, it's not completely accurate. It lets it down." So you're saying that this toy is not completely, the slight inaccuracy on, say, the eye or something is letting it down. Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay. What about this massive join line here, where you've got to have it because of the toy? What about all the screws in the bottom of it? What about the obvious pivot point of, you know, the ball joint and things like that? And you really look at it and think, you know, I'm going into mini rant territory here. I'm trying not to, but you really do just sort of have to question sometimes why people go on about really minor inaccuracies for what is effectively a toy, you know. If you want something that's really hyper accurate, you go and spend hundreds of pounds on getting something hyper accurate. But if you want a toy, of a Dalek from a budget store, let's be honest, because that's what B&M is, at a lower price, you get what you pay for. You know, that's just my view on things. But I think it is something which is it just I don't understand it. I don't understand it at times. But that's there was going to be a mini rant at some point in the stream, so there we go. We've had it. Let's move on. And I will check and look at the stream in a minute because the questions chat, because I realised I haven't been looking at it again. I apologise. There's probably quite a few questions waiting for me. So Emperor Dalek. Last I saw it was going for £1,500. There you go. So it's a seemingly non-official prototype going for 1,500 quid. Yeah, that says a lot. I love one of the Delgados. That's when I was talking about the master. Use Warhammer paints. I use Tame with my customs. Did the best job out of all the paints I've used before. I mean, Warhammer paint. I don't really paint Warhammer, and I've never been a huge fan of those sorts of model paints because I find them difficult to work with. But again, that's just me. That's my personal experience. Each to their own individually. If they work for you, really happy because it's really happy for you because it's great to find something that works well for you. So I use Tamiya paints for the customers. Yeah, I can't, the Tamiya paints ones, especially for their acrylics, for their metallics, are very, very good. You've got various ranges of ones, not just silvers and golds and greys, but you have other, metallic colours and things like that. They do work very, very well. Things like that. Half time we have to pay £40. Oh, that's for the figures. Okay, yeah. So £40. Yes, you do. You do have to pay that much. But here's the thing: is you can't change the fact that today, especially these days, we know we are in a cost of living crisis with a serious inflation problem, and that affects all the stuff like our food, petrol bills, energy bills, things like that, and we accept that. But it's not just us. Companies are facing that same thing as well. Like I said, I work where I work in the aerospace industry. Prices are rocketing up because that's the price it costs to make it, and you can't have a company making something and selling it at a loss to the customers. Character options are no different. If they could make those figures cheaper, I'm sure they would. They're not raising the prices to just cash grab and things like that. They're doing it because that is the cost. At the end of the day, they're a company. They have to make some profit. That you can't expect them to sell things at a breaking even or at a loss. That's not how good business works. I'm clear as well. Sorry, I don't want to seem time controller. I'm saying this to you specifically. I'm saying this in general, and I don't mean to sound like I'm going on another rant or anything like that. I'm just sort of trying to explain the situation clearly. Yeah, a company, they have to make a profit because that's how they keep the business going. But if they make something and they said, okay, we're going to sell this for £40, it's going to cost us £30 to make it. They can't sell it at £30 or even £35 because they won't be able to keep the business going. They need that money to interject into it. They need the profits to keep the business going. So I look at it and think like, yeah, £40 these days is a lot of money, especially during a cost of living crisis where energy bills and things like that are. But the other thing as well is character options aren't making us buy these figures. If we've got bills to pay, and I'm including myself in this, if we've got bills to pay and we need to buy food, heat, light, power, all of this kind of stuff. And our biggest concern is that we're not going to be able to afford a toy. And I've had that myself. I will make it very clear. I'm not trying to have a go at other people. I'm classing myself very much in this, where I've sat there and I've thought, yeah, but then I'm not going to have any money to get this kind of thing. And then in my head, I just go, you've got a roof over your head. You've got food on your table. And you're complaining that you can't afford to buy what is effectively a toy. And you just, at that point, you really do look and think like, no, do you know what? I am quite lucky. And if the fact that I can't afford to buy a toy Dalek is the worst of my problems, then I'm incredibly lucky. And I think, it's not fair to put it onto character options saying, "Oh, they're selling this, we can't afford to get it." If we can't afford to get it, then so be it. We have other things that we've got to afford. Alternatively, it's a case of, you think you can't afford to get it, save up and get it. If you know some, for example, a lot of these, the character option sets, we know they're coming out several months before they actually do come out, or even several weeks. It's very rare, I think, that they sort of come out and say, "Oh, they're coming out next week." It has happened, but at the same time, we know these sets are coming in future. We know the rough price that these sets are going to be because of how much they were costed out with previous releases. And so it is not impossible to put money aside and save up for them in advance. And I think, it's not something which is always easy to do, because there are priorities in life, and there are things which mean you have to pay other bills and you have to pay other things, and you might save money and then suddenly you realize you need to use that money for something else. Then unfortunately that's the way life is. I think it's, and I want to make it clear, I'm sure some people are going to say this, not necessarily on the stream, but I know for a fact there are people out there who will probably hear me or see that I've said this, and they'll say, "Yeah, he's just saying that because character options send him free shit and things like that." And it's like, right, they do send me things, but at the end of the day, that's part of a business agreement where I review them, and I realize how fortunate and lucky I am. And even then, if I didn't get sent them, I'd still go out and buy them to review them. And even when I do get sent them, I sometimes tend to go and buy other ones because I might want to use them for customs. I still, I still pay into that system of I still pay into that system of business and consumer. It's not a case of me sitting here saying this and being out of touch. I'm saying this full in the knowledge of how much these things cost and what goes into them. And then I think as well, it does help. The flip side of it is having gotten things from character options has led me to looking more in depth into what goes into the actual making of these figures and how much it actually costs and production costs, and now working in industry, the idea of what goes into a production cost and the different breakdowns of things like that, you do realize actually how much work goes into it versus how much it costs. And you do gain an appreciation for how surprisingly cheap some things are, when it comes to how much it is to buy. It might be a lot to the person buying it, but when you look at how much is spent making it, you genuinely might be quite staggered as to how cheap the sales price seems in comparison. I appreciate, I want to make it very clear, these are just my views. Not everyone is going to agree with them, and I certainly don't wish to seem like I'm saying this to any specific person. I certainly don't mean to cause any offence or upset to anyone or feel like I'm targeting anyone in specific. If anybody does feel like that, I sincerely apologise. That is not the case. I do just want to sort of help set the facts straight, and if I can put things into a helpful perspective, which is again why I don't want to seem like this is another rant. I would like to see if this has come across as a rant again, I apologise, because that's not what you came to the stream for. But if it has sort of given people food for thought and it's been useful information, then I've done well. I would say that's my intention. It's something that's never going to please everyone at the end of the day. You're always going to get people who are going to want things cheaper, and I count myself in that. I would dearly love it if the character options sets were cheaper, and I also I feel people's understanding and pain of where they can't get hold of these sets, because yes, I get some sent to me in advance, but I never customize the advanced things I get, which means if I want to customize them, I've got to go and buy them. And my B&M half the time doesn't have them. And my nearest B&M is just up the road. They very rarely get them. They might sometimes get them, but not a huge amount. My next nearest B&M is 30 miles away, and I don't have a car. So it's yeah, I do understand people's frustrations. Don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong, because I really do sympathise with how people feel with these sorts of things. On that note, I will change the subject. There we have a still not used to doing this on the camera. We have our Cyber Warrior, or at least our first Cyber Warrior, the base Cyber Warrior, come out very nicely. Very nice to paint. I keep turning around to look at me when I'm trying to do it to the camera. The metallic greys come out very nicely. Obviously, we've got the chest piece up here and there. Oh, I have just realised, looking at the reference picture, is that the lighting or is that actually how it is? It might just be the lighting, but I think he does appear to actually have darker grey rods on the lower part of the helmet. So let's change that. Should have brought some more metallic grey. Scared the absolute crap out of me. There's a cat right outside my window and I just saw something slinking past. I see you two. Sorry people, I have seen cats. I must investigate as a cat person. Are you going to say hello? No, you can't come in, I'm just saying hello. Sorry people, there were cats. I had to investigate. Fellow cat lovers will understand. Now I know I'm just being. Yeah, you can't come. You're standing outside the window looking in now. Hang on. I'll. If you go over to my Twitter, you will see what I mean. Just feel. Oh, they've gone now. I just feel the eyes in the back of my head. Anyway, where was I? Does it have articulation? Yeah, yes, they do have articulation. So it has articulation in the shoulders, the forearm, shoulders, elbows, head, waist, hips, and knees. It does take. Also, and I want to make it very clear: this isn't any kind of criticism of these kits. With the 3D printed resin, I will say that you do have to sort of carefully sand some of the pegs to get into the holes and make sure that you've got the articulation, because it can be a bit loose. And you know, where I've done this on the arms on this is me. I want to make it very clear this is something I've done. I've sanded these a bit too much, so they are sort of a bit looser than I would like them to be. But again, that's on me. The arms do still hold up. You know, once they've been primed and painted, the paint does sort of add a bit more rigidity to the joint. But it's also worth saying as well, and again, this is not a criticism because I understand the limitations of this, because these are made of resin, they are brittle to an extent. You know, they're not, you know, a hard plastic. There's a very big difference between a hard plastic peg and a resin peg, and you know, these will snap under stress. You would have to put a lot of stress into it, you know, but I would say that I think these are certainly made more for display rather than play. Again, I want to make it very clear, this is not a criticism of these figures. They are absolutely fantastic, and there is no reason why, if
they were uh, put together carefully, that you could retain all the articulation, and if they weren't being thrown around and things like that, they can be posed and everything like that, because the level of articulation on them is absolutely phenomenal. But it is just one of those things that I do just. I think it's only fair to say these are certainly more delicate than an official figure. And again, I want to make it clear that that's not any kind of criticism. That is simply just a statement of fact in terms of what they're made from. Um, but at the end of the day, I am perfectly fine with that, because the resin gives an incredible level of detail. I mean, again, I'll finish him off in a minute, but if I don't know how well it comes up on the camera, but if you can see the wood grain on the wooden Cyberman, it's just absolutely phenomenal. And it is kind of I look at it as in like if a trade off for a trade off for uh, what's the word I'm looking for? If I'm trading off detail for structural integrity, then I think that's absolutely a fair trade, because again, I'm going to have these on display. They're going to look absolutely fantastic on display. I'm not planning on playing with them or anything like that. It really is just absolutely fantastic, and it really is, to be fair, a true testament to how well they're designed as well. That the articulation on these just works so well, because I've never sort of done full figures like this, but there are times when I sort of design pieces, even just doing things like some of the Dalek arms and things like that. It's can be quite difficult to get articulation perfect and working and fit absolutely perfectly. And I really am just staggered at how well everyone involved in the making these has done the level of detail and sculpting on this. I really am envious of their skills, and I certainly wouldn't want it to seem like I'm being critical of something that they've put so much work and effort into. I really don't want to give that impression at all. It's absolutely phenomenal pieces of work with these, and again, thoroughly recommend them for anyone who's interested in getting them. But yeah, I just feel like it's a fair thing to say. As it's a kind okay, I'll tell you what, it's the same thing as if I were to buy a something, I feel like if I'm reviewing it, which is kind of what I'm doing here, I'm going to be fair and speak my mind on it, which is according to, again, people in certain places who send me certain things, is a reason why I do get sent certain things, is they appreciate the honesty of my reviews. So I do feel like it's worth saying that, again, not as a criticism of these kits at all, but for people that are interested in buying them, they are made more for display rather than play. That's just the way that I look at it. It is something which is just worth saying, because I don't want to be critical of these fantastic kits, but at the same time, I don't want to give people the impression that these are made to be chucked around and played in the same way that a character options toy could be. They are more delicate. That's just a fact of what they're made of. So I hope that's come across in the right way. I certainly don't want people to seem like I'm misleading them, or seem like I'm speaking my mind of something which is not the case, as it were. And I've just realised in all of this, again, I've not been looking at the chat. I'm so sorry. Does it have articulate? Okay, so it's not. Last time I saw Socks, a stray cat in my garden in the front, and I called him Socks. I know one of these cats. I think the sort of brown and black one, he's called Dougie. So I know that much.
recently made a 3D printed Vario. Sadly, I couldn't get it in 5-inch scale, but it was in scale with the Eagle Moss and the 5-inch Daleks. No, I didn't make design.
So the 3D printed Dalek Emperor, was that new series or classic? Curiosity, because I know the classic design is out there. Well, I've made one myself, a 3D printed one myself. I'm just curious to know. But on that note, we actually do now have the finished Cyber Warrior. That's the first variant done. I'm going to start work on the... Actually, I'm not going to start work on the second variant yet. I'm going to finish off the wooden Cyberman because he's finally dry. So let's pop him on the shelf with the other one. They look so cool. Like, they look so good just stood next to each other. It's annoying that I can't turn the camera and show you because they just stood there. They look really good. Right, wooden Cyberman. First things first, let's do his head. Classic. Yes, so it's a really, if that's the one that's on the 3D printing Doctor Who website, it's an absolutely wonderful design to print. As I said, I printed one myself, and then the one I printed, I ended up putting in a little sort of sound chippy thing to give it lines from the show. But they also did the destroyed one, which I really do want to do as well, because I think that's so well put together and so well designed. I really do want to make that one and have all sort of, you know, the interiors and maybe even put some lights in it, because electronics has never been my it's never quite been my forte. But since I started my job, I've sort of gotten a bit more a little bit more experience with doing electronic things. But having said that as well, when it comes to doing anything electrical, especially when it comes to do with lights and wiring and soldering and things like that, even as a 35-year-old man, there is the most the best advice I can ever get from any quarter on doing anything electrical, if I have any doubts, is I call up my dad, because he knows what he's doing. It's dad for electrics, mum. I call up my dad for anything electrical, or call up my mum for anything about computers. So that's always my go-to. Okay, right, that's the head. So now we do the chest piece. Now the chest piece for this one is going to be interesting because wooden Cyberman. Because I would potentially just do it the sort of solid orange, but it's sort of got an orangey edge to it, hasn't it? With a lighter yellow. I might just go for just pure yellow, to be honest, and just keep it really simple, because it's not impossible to do. It just keep things simpler. Again, as I said before, I'm not fussed by 100% accuracy.
Classic, yeah. I saw that, but didn't know how strong it will be, as in if it would collapse inwards on itself.
It depends on what you're painting it with. If it's that one, if it's PLA plastic, which is what I print in, it should be fine to stay up of its own accord. I don't think there's any issues there. I can't say I've ever had any sort of issues on that, but it also depends on the scale you're printing it in, because if it's a smaller scale, then obviously it may be less structurally integral. So I mean, I was about to say I would advise, but I think it's kind of, I can't really advise on that. It's something that you'd probably just have to trial and error, really. Which, to be fair, is half the time what I end up doing with printing. I've got so much, like, just scrap or unfinished stuff in terms of prints, because I've started something, trialed it, and then gone to do it and found it's not worked.
How long have I been streaming now? I've lost track. Does it tell me? It should tell me somewhere. 2.5 hours already. Jesus.
I'm back. How are we doing? So we're just finishing off the wooden Cyberman, or at least getting there. He's almost finished. I've just got to do another coat on his chest piece. We finished our first Cyber Warrior, and now I'm going to start on the second Cyber Warrior variant, because why not? So I mentioned this at the start, but I'll mention it again for those interested. So this Cyber Warrior variant is basically, so the body is another of the 3D printed Cyber Warrior kits, but on top of it I've put a Cybus Cyberman head, because it appears in a blink and you will miss it shot in Ascension of the Cyberman, where they zoom out of the window of the cyber ship, and there's several of these floating in space. One of them, I think, right at the end of the shot is on the left-hand side of the screen. You'd really have to look carefully for it, but it's an interesting variant, so I thought, why not? So, where are we? Oh, God, my legs. Because they're all probably doing things like this, you're sitting down for a long time. So what have I got left of this? So I've got the Danny Pink Cyberman, and I've got Danny Pink Cyberman Ashad. I'm definitely going to have to tackle Ashad last. I might have to say, because I was taking knew how long a stream was going to take, but at the same time I didn't think it was going to take as long as I thought. So I may finish Ashad in this one. I'd like to finish them one. I don't really want to leave the stream and not have finished them, because that's the whole point of the stream, but time-wise I shall have to wait and see. I'll definitely get all of the others finished. That's certainly not an issue. But the Ashad one, that might have to be a starting job and then finishing it on a custom figure short later on Sunday. Because, again, I'll mention it for the sake of it. For the people worrying that they might have missed finished customs, do not worry. I'll be putting all of these customs up on my YouTube as little custom figure shorts on the Sunday.
Also, are the Cyber Warriors different to the last ones you made? I think Cybus Warrior is meant to be a Nightmare in Silver cyber model.
I'm not sure exactly what it's meant to be, because I thought it was a Nightmare in Silver one, but it when I looked at the image and the still image and I brightened it up, it does seem to be a Cyber Warrior with a Cybus head for some reason. I don't know. It could be that maybe that was the design that they planned to do as a Nightmare in Silver Cyberman and it never came to fruition. But either way, it's a nice, interesting variant. Are the Cyber Warriors different to the last ones you made? Now, I have to look this up. So the Cyber Warriors I made before... Cyber Warrior... This is where I've got to the point now where I've done so many customs, I lose track of what I have and haven't done. I think I know which one you mean, but I want to make sure. So Cyber Warrior, okay, yeah. So Cyber Warrior custom figure, Ashad, Cybermaster, and Cyberman. So yes, so well, they're different in the sense of that they're not the same kits. Those ones that I'd made previously were from the Doctor Who 3D printing website. They were ones that I'd made myself in terms of printing them and painting them and things like that. Obviously, with these new kits, those ones are slightly redundant, and I don't necessarily know if I want to keep them, so I may be selling them, but before anyone gets your hopes up about where, saying, when are you going to sell them, can you let me know when they're up? I don't know if I am going to sell them yet, because I want to be very careful about selling them, because at the end of the day, the files that I have printed them from have been put up online for free. And, I don't have the right, nor does anyone else, to go out and sell those, just printing them off and selling them, without the permission of the person that made them originally. So what I'm going to do is, first things first, is to message the original creator and ask them if they don't mind me selling those, on the basis that I would be selling them as one-offs of customs that I no longer need anymore, and that I wouldn't be taking credit for their work. I would make sure that they had credit for their work and everything like that, and I would be selling them purely to recoup the time I'd spent making them and the resources I'd spent making them. I'm not selling them to take credit for the design. If the person that made it is okay with that, then I may sell those versions on my eBay. But as I said, I don't want to. So I'm just going to touch up the wooden Cyberman's chest piece. I don't want to assume that that is the case, that I'm allowed to do that until I have double checked, because as I said, I do not have the rights to sell that design that they have uploaded for free, because it's not on. Because I've had a couple of people do that with some of the stuff that I've put up on Thingiverse. I found that they're selling kits of things that I've done, and it's it's annoying, because the whole point of putting my stuff up on Thingiverse is I want people to be able to have them. And if this is a good talking point actually for a minute while I'm waiting for things to dry. So the things that I put up on my Thingiverse are things that I have made, that I've put up there, so anyone else who wants to download them and make them themselves can. And if they want to print them and make their own versions of it, great. They are not there for people to take the files, print up a load of them, and then sell them on, because that's not fair. It's just, that's not the reason why they're up there. There's very specific copyright licensing to do with 3D printing, and if you go on to Thingiverse, you'll see it's there, and I think it's the copyright protection attributions non-commercial or things like that, which basically means people can use my design as long as they give credit and they're not selling it. That's the way it is. It's not one of these cases of, I think a lot of people assume like, well, it's online, you've posted it online for free, therefore it's free for everyone to use. No, it's not how it works. There is still copyright in place. So which one is my dark grey? I've lost track of where my paints are. That one. So if in terms of, like I said, if somebody were to print off my designs and then sell them, I would take issue with that, because that's not why I've put them up there. If someone were to take my designs, make their own custom version as a one-off, later decide they didn't want to do it and sold it as a one-off, I personally would be okay with that, because it's a one-off. If they printed them off, sold them as full customs, and made a series of them, that wouldn't be good, because again, I haven't given them permission to do that. So it's a grey area, and you've got to tread very carefully in it. So as I said, I would certainly, if I could, I would put my older customs up for sale, but that is not my decision to make, because it's not entirely my work, so I would need to check with the original seller. And I actually, it's just occurred to me while I'm talking about this, is one thing that I know has come up before is, I know a couple of times somebody messaged me saying, oh, I found this person selling this custom on eBay, and it has one of your custom head sculpts that you sell on eBay, or your 3D printed parts in it, etc. And what's the case is that person has bought those parts from me, put them on a custom, and then sold the custom. That I am fine with, because A, they credited me with having made the original piece, which is fine. Secondly, they've already bought it from me. So once they've bought it from me, what they decide to do with it is entirely up to them. If I found that they were bulk buying a load of my stuff and then selling it at a competitive price, I might have something to say, because that seems a bit underhanded. It's not illegal or anything like that, but it is just it's a bit of a slap in the face thing to do. Which is why I'm always careful about selling things in bulk like that. There's only a couple of people that I've ever sold things in bulk to, and again, that's very much the same thing as I said the first time. They've bought it from me at a good price. They're not selling it then at an inflated price. What they've bought, they've added to, and they then sold it on, and that's fair enough. You've got to be very careful with these things, because you don't want you don't want to tread on anyone else's toes, you know. And it's something which I've noticed a little bit in the customs community before on two sides. You know, I've had things where I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, this person, you know, you've made this person's selling that," and it's doesn't bother me because they're selling their own version of it. You know, they're not trying to compete with me. They're not trying to steal any business. There is a gap in the market that I don't have any ownership over. You know, so there's nothing to say that they can't make their own things. You know, that's it. But on the flip side, I've had people turn around to me and say, "Oh, I'm planning on." I'm not going to name any specific names, and I want to make it clear. The reason I'm not naming any specific names is I don't want people to go out there and assume this of other people. So, you know, I'm not saying this of anyone in particular, and I'm not even going to imply or hint, but I've had people out there who something that I've made, I've then had people come to me and say, "Oh, I'm planning on making this. I'm planning on doing my own version. Would you, you know, stop selling your version essentially?" And it's like, no, you have no right to ask me that. And I would never ask that of anybody else, because at the end of the day, we're making things which none of us own the license rights to. You know, we do, you know, Daleks, Cybermen, companion characters, everything. I'll make clear, this isn't aimed at anyone in particular. I'm just saying this as a general statement. Every Doctor Who creator, like, you know, resource creator, 3D printing, customs, etc., like that, we all make these things. We don't own them. We've got no ownership rights over any of them. So none of us have any right to turn around to anyone else and ask them to stop making something because they want the sole market for it. You know, if this was an official company turning around, you know, if I was selling, you know, like I said, some of the custom head sculpts and things I make, and character options turn around to me and said, "We don't want you to sell your version anymore because we're making them," yeah, it would still be a bit of a shitty thing to do, which character options wouldn't do, because that's not the kind of people they are. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is an official company who has an official license. I am someone who's just making things. I have no leg to stand on, as it were. But at the end of the day, that's the way things go sometimes. But, you know, as I said, this is why I've got to be very careful, going back to my original point, about what I make and sell in terms of 3D printed stuff. Because if I'm selling or making something which is based on something that someone else has already done and uses parts of something that someone has already done, then it is not my place to decide that I can sell that. You know, as I really do have a lot of respect for everybody in the who makes figures and things like that, and especially sells them. I mean, there's several people in the customs community that, you know, and again, I'm not going to name names and things like that. Several people in the customs community that I don't get on with, and we just don't get on. I don't know why. You know, that's the way it happens. Sometimes you just don't click with some people, and despite that, I have the utmost respect for their talents, and, you know, I am not going to turn around and slate someone else's work because I don't like them as a person. I just don't think that's a very nice thing to do, you know. Just because you don't like someone doesn't mean they aren't talented. You know, maybe that's just me. But that's just the way I look at it, you know. Why do I keep going on these tangents like this? I do apologise. Unless everyone's interested in hearing my thoughts on this kind of stuff, in which case I'm glad you find it entertaining. What was that? I mean, I'm hoping people find it entertaining, because whenever I seem to go on these things, people seem to stop asking questions. So I wonder if people either sat there listening, or they sat there going, "Oh God, when is he going to shut up?"
Right, where was I? Right, so back on to painting the Cyber Warrior. Yeah, again, if anybody wants to ask any questions, ask me anything. It's the whole point of this, well, half the point of this, the rest of the point is to do custom figure painting. Every time I do these live streams, sort of like, it's a lot of work to get it all set up, and like I said, it's the motivation to do it, especially when I'm tired from work. But then when I get into it, it's quite nice. It's quite nice to just talk and just say things. Because otherwise I am sat here in silence half the time. And it's a good way to get out your own head. Funny enough, someone I was talking about to someone the other night, I was saying, you know, it's like, it's a nice distraction because half the time, if you sit there in your own headspace, shall we say, it's very easy to just get lost and overwhelmed. Especially when you feel like you're on your own. And yet, weirdly, I am on my own right now because I'm sat in this room and there's no one else here. My other half is in the other room, hopefully still asleep because she works nights and I hope I haven't been disturbing her. But yeah, I'm still here on my own, sat on my own, effectively talking to myself, but I'm not because I'm talking to all of you.
I've got the stream on in the background while I'm modelling stuff on Blender, so that's why I've not said too much.
I'm glad to know it's good listening while you're modelling. I hope it's informative and not too distracting.
Have you ever found a great deal on Doctor Who figures on eBay?
Yes, occasionally. I mean, it depends on what people count as a great deal, if I'm honest, because I look at things like that and it all depends on its worth, how much you're willing to pay for. And, you know, there are times when I've got entire boxes of, I mean, I remember, this is going back quite a few years. It's very rare that you find a deal like this. I got a job lot of about 200 Doctor Who figures for like 25 quid. And there were lots of you know, there weren't really any rarities in there. There were maybe one or two classic Daleks. But generally speaking, it was lots of, you know, there was about sort of 20 odd pig slaves. There was, you know, about 5 destroyed Cassandras. There were lots of really random stuff in there. But at the end of the day, it's all good. It's all good fodder, as it were. And it's here's the thing is as well is a lot of people often tend to ask me where do you go to get Doctor Who figures and get spares and things like that. There is no single resource. You know, there is no single good place to go and get this stuff. You've really just got to shop around, you know, whether that's online, whether you go into charity shops, whether you know, go over Facebook pages and things like that. As much as I wish there were, there is no single good place to get Doctor Who figures and spares. And the other thing as well is they say where to get them cheaply. Now, it also depends on what you mean by cheap, because if by cheap you mean, say, £5 a figure, then I would say it's not impossible, but it also depends on what figure you're looking for. Because, I mean, I remember, I mean, this is going many years back. This is going way, way back to, I think, when I started YouTube, back in sort of 2014, might have been 2015, somewhere around that time anyway, because it was after the 50th anniversary, and somebody dropped me a message asking if I knew any places to go and get Night of the Doctor, a cheap Night of the Doctor figure. And this was when they were sort of starting to get a bit pricey. This is the original release, where they were starting to get a bit pricey and difficult to find. And I said the same thing. I said, well, it depends on, you know, it depends. There's no single good place, you know, to look. You've got to look around and see what you can find. And it also depends on what you determine as cheap, because they are sought after figures now. And I remember
It was. They were very. To be fair, I don't think they really. It wasn't a. It wasn't a any kind of mean response or things like that. But I don't think they fully really grasped how rare these figures were becoming, because they. I remember they said to me. They said, "Well, it's like at a decent price, at a cheap price." And I was like, "Well, it's depending on what you mean by cheap, because they're going to set you back about sort of 30 odd quid." And they went, "Oh, I was hoping to pick one up for about 5." And it's just, again, in the nicest way possible. I did just have to turn around and say, I'd be very surprised if you're going to find one at that price. Because it was the truth. It's a difficult thing at times to find these figures, because they do go up in price. They will go up in price. They always will, and you can't change that fact. And I think it's one of those things. The amount of times there's so many figures out there which I regretted not buying at the time. Look, I got the San Diego Real Time 6 Sonic Lands, brand new condition, same for.
Yeah. So real time. So for example, the these Comic-Con ones, they're right here, so I might as well show them. The colour and black and white first Doctors. I had all the second Doctors. I got all of them, and I've had them in my collection for quite a while. And then I decided that I was going to get the different variants, because there's the black and white ones, and then there's the colour ones. There is also then ones that have a San Diego Comic-Con logo and ones that don't, and I wanted to get them all. Second Doctors, easy to find. They were sort of, bearing in mind this was much later, they're about £90 a pop. I wish I'd bought them when they come out, but yeah, anywhere between sort of 70 to 90 quid. They weren't difficult to get hold of. First Doctors, so hard to find, really, really hard to find. And I think in the end, they were about £120 each I paid for them. And I think in total, when I costed it out to get the 4 first Doctors and 4 second Doctors, so I've got the black and white first and second Doctors, I've got the colour first and second Doctors, I've got the Comic-Con package variant of the colour first Doctors, and the Comic-Con package variant of the black and white second Doctors, or whichever way around. Anyway, I've got all the variants, and I think in total I spent about 800 quid on them, because that's how much they were worth. That I didn't. A lot of people put things up on online for stupid prices, but they do it because they think people are. A good example of that, actually. A while back, some of you may have one, some of you may remember, some of you didn't. The prototype 10th Doctor figure, which had the bicep articulation and things like that, when they first appeared on eBay, they were going for like £12 each. They were really, really cheap because that's what they were. It's a prototype piece, but it was just cheaply sold because it's not worth a huge amount. The minute people realised it was a prototype figure, the price is, 50 quid a pop is not bad for that sort of thing. But then after they'd all sold out, I was suddenly seeing them on eBay for £500, £1,000. I think the highest one I saw, and I shit you not, somebody had one on a Facebook page for £5,000. And I'm just like, it is not worth that much money. It's just not. It sold for £12.99 originally. It's just really not worth that much money. But people say, oh, it's a prototype piece, you're not going to find any more of them. And it's like, right, okay, prototype piece, I'll pay a few hundred quid for a prototype. It depends on what it is, but I'll pay a good couple of £100 for them. I've got quite a few over the years. I think I've probably spent a good couple of grand, but every now and again I might look at it and think, like, a good average price for a prototype, anywhere from £100 to £200. That's what I would say. That's my personal opinion. And again, it varies. It depends on what the prototype is, but it's that's good. That's a good bench price. So when I start seeing things popping up for sort of £1,000 or over, when I start seeing things pop up for over £500, especially when it's something that I know the price of, it is just pure. It staggers me that people actually pay for those prices, because at the end of the day, yeah, it's a prototype. Yeah, there might only be a certain few of them out there, but the bottom line is it's still a toy made of plastic. It might not be one of the more commercially available ones, but it was still produced in the same factory, using the same means. costing the same amount. You're literally throwing money at it because of the rarity. And I say that as someone who buys prototypes. I say that as someone who has spent hundreds of pounds on getting figures in the box. So again, I'm not really in any position to speak, but at the same time, it's common sense. You know, you need to consider and think about the actual worth of something, because it's only worth what you are willing to pay for it. That's I think is a good way of putting it, because there are lots of things out there that people would pay money for and pay good money for, but it depends if it's really worth it to you. Okay, so we have another Cyber Warrior finished. I really do love the fact that it's got the Cyber's head. I'm still not used to the camera. I apologise that they're not in great focus on the camera. It's not the best camera. I really do need to get a new one, but he's come out very, very well. Let's pop him on the shelf to the next one. Right, I think actually as well, because it's dried, I would say that our wooden Cyberman is also finished. This, I think, I love them all. Don't get me wrong, because I know Lone Dalek and still was it. This is probably my favourite one you guys have done so far. I love the wood grain effect. It stands out so well. It really, really does look the part, and I think you guys have done a phenomenal job in recognising that on a figure. Why we've never had this as a proper figure, I don't know, but it's absolutely amazing. Love it. Really, really so well done to you guys. Right, so now we have left Danny Pink and Ashad the Cyberman. So we're going to do Danny Pink next. Now, for the Danny Pink, let's have a look. Pink. Because I don't think he ever has the blue chest unit. I think it is, well, I know he has a sort of open bit with all of the wires and things like that. But I think, does he close it? And then he's got, or is it just always open? I know it doesn't light up. I think it might just always be open in that sort of design way. So I'm going to have to see what I can do about that. I might just have to sort of paint it black and then just put a few sort of little squiggly lines over it as if they're wires and things like that. It's cool to see one in a natural pose, not floating in space. I have seen a lot of prototypes on paint figures that given how close he appeared to finally releasing the 10th Doctor last year, I can imagine next year's coated 10th Doctor release will have a higher chance of being updated for that sculpt. I again, purely my own speculation, I would be very surprised if that 10th Doctor release isn't used for future re-releases. So for those who don't know, in B&M's most recent 10th Doctor set, we were supposed to get the updated prototype 10th Doctor with the bicep swivel, but for reasons, shall we say, there was a mistake somewhere along the way and it didn't get put into it. There were, I know, possibly things where there were things about people saying about the budget and things like that, but I think it was just an unfortunate oversight. But I reckon the chances of actually then getting it in future now are quite high. So I would hope that we do get to see it, because it would be a great one to see released. And personally, I would also potentially use it as a good one for a TARDIS set with a 10th Doctor and TARDIS. I think that would be very good. In fact, again, another one which I have I put this up on my channel? I might have put this up on my Instagram, so I don't think it's a huge spoiler. But a while back I did the Bad Wolf TARDIS, which has got the Bad Wolf sign at the top, and if the camera will pick it up, probably not. I think you can just about see that. It's got the Bad Wolf sign, and then on the inside it's got the red interior. So if you did that and you had that TARDIS with a red interior light, and perhaps when you open the doors you had the cloister bell sound, that would be a good TARDIS set, I think, with the articulated 10th Doctor. That would definitely be one I think that would go down well. And it would be a great way to release that sort of figure as well as a sort of variant. But again, I think it's one that they'll probably use now that they've got it and they know that, you know, it's there. I think they'll probably use it more, or you would hope they would anyway. But again, we can only speculate, sadly. I wish I knew more, and if I did know more, I wish I would be able to tell you. But I want to. Oh, okay, that's okay. What I mean by that is, I want to get clear, hand on heart, I don't know anything at the moment, but that's not gonna stop me from thinking. You know, it's like if I did know something, or if I do know something, of course, as a fan, it's something that I always want to talk about, but I won't because I understand the element of trust and things like that. That's shown to me by knowing these things. So I genuinely don't know anything anymore. But I think, like most fans, it's kind of, you know, so many people. You know, you just think, oh my god, it's so exciting! I can't wait to talk about this. I can't wait to review it and things like that. And it's, yeah, it's important to keep that trust. It really is important. But it's, like I said, it's just they think, oh my god, this is so exciting! I want to tell people. I want to tell people. You can't tell people. Right, okay. Now, this is the bit that's always slightly tricky. Skin tones. So I'm going to try and work this because skin tones at the best of times are always slightly difficult. However, I've now got to do Danny looking slightly sort of ashen-faced. So we'll see what happens when I just mix up some random colours and see what comes out, because that's half the time what I end up doing when it comes to doing skin tones. It's kind of just mix and see, as it were. Might be a bit too light. Oh, I don't know, it might work actually. I think that might work. That was surprisingly easy. Just realised I'm not checking the chat again. I'm sorry. I hate doing skin tones. Oh god, skin tones are a bane of my life at times. They really are. Because I know, you know, there's lots of things like that, you know, that there's, I'm sure there are, you know, there's plenty of paints out there that are specifically skin tones, you know, and that would make things a lot easier. But it's when I'm trying to match, that was my chair. It's when I'm trying to match skin tones. So for example, if I've got, let's say, a 3D printed head and I've already got a set of like, character options hands, I kind of try to match the skin tone to the existing hands because it's just one less thing to paint. But it is a nightmare at times because you just can't get it quite right, and it's just a lot of hassle. But hey ho. But then that also, I turn around and think, well, why don't I just go and get a skin tone paint and just paint the hands as well? Answer, because I'm just a bit lazy. In fact, whilst I'm doing this as well, because I've just realised I haven't even started work on the rest of the Cybermaster yet, and I haven't even started work on Ashat. Okay, so let's pop Danny off to one side, but I can use this same skin tone for Ashad's face, so we can make a start on his head. Took a bit too much paint there, never mind. What time is it? Oh, it's 2:30. Right, I am going to call it. I don't think I'm going to get all of these Cybermen finished on this stream now because I am running out of
a bit of time. I started this quite earlier because I thought I'll just get myself a bit more time, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get them all done. So I will try and at least get Danny finished. But then Ashad and the Cybermaster, I might have to finish in my own time and then put those up on Sunday. Sorry about that. But it's been fun. Original set are not even unopened, it was on fun. Also, would you say getting the Dalek Collector set open one is in good condition, £55 is a good deal?
Yeah, I would say that's a very good. I would agree with Low Diet. It's a very good deal for 55 quid, especially if it's still unopened and still all sealed. That's a very good. Yeah, that's a very good deal. Very good deal. Right, is there anything I can do on this? What can I do on the Cybermaster to at least get him a bit further along? Because his cloak's definitely dry by now. And it's also the fact as well, I have to say, it's talking for this long an extended period is a little bit
Tiring on the throat. So I need to do his eyes, which are sort of lightish, slightly greyer. Such as okay, so I've got that for that, and then we can do the chest piece and the headlight. The thing is, and again, I want to make it clear, this is not a criticism of these, is doing all of the intricate stuff on this headdress is going to take me quite a while. And I just don't think I'm going to have the time in the stream to do that today. Or at least I don't have the time in the stream to do it whilst I'm doing everything else. But I will definitely get it done by Sunday and up for a video. Yeah, that looks all right. Right. How's Danny looking?
I mean, it's open. There is no box. Oh, I mean, it's still not a bad deal. I'd say 55 quid for all three figures.
But the thing is, it also depends on how much you want the originals. Because if you're after the originals, then again, they're sort of, it's what you are willing to pay for it, really. I would say. It's yeah. I can't really offer more advice than that, I'm afraid. Sorry.
It's like I said, it's what it's a good deal. It's usually the Supreme alone goes 40 quid. Fair point. Yeah. It's not too bad.
Again, it really is just, if you're willing to, if you're happy with that price, then that's up to you. You know, it's not that it's not a good deal, because it probably still is, but it just depends on if you want to buy them for that price, really, because it's each to their own.
I just realised I've stopped talking again.
This is the problem I said with doing this sort of live stream, is I'm here to sort of chat to people and talk about things, and then I get so engrossed in what I'm doing I forget to say anything. I'm so used to working in silence.
Okay, let's have a look at. Ah, got my legs. I do need to stand up in a minute as well. Right, Danny Pink Cyberman. So I just sort of like got weird loose wires and things like that. So I just kind of need to just dab on some details, really. Maybe just pop in a bit of red. Do I have some red? Doesn't really look like he's got any red in there, but I'll make it look like wires and shit. Oh. Just makes it stand out a bit more. Maybe still a bit of blue in there as well, because again it lights up blue, so it would make sense that there's some blue light in there somewhere. Where did the lid for that paint go? Right underneath my chair. Oh, that was close. It landed carpet side down. I was worried. I reckon it's difficult to get on camera again. Bit of circuitry in his chest, it will do. Just makes him look a bit more different to all the others. Okay, so face. Right, so I need a little bit more brown in there, maybe. Realised I'm still not checking the chat, sorry. Will we ever see the next episode in your audio series, not the War Doctor one? Yes, at some point. I do want to carry on with my audio series. It's just, again, it's the motivation to do it. It's always been it's not been a difficult thing, but it's a lot of work to edit, record, edit, and write all in one. But it is something that I do want to continue. But as I said, now I'm doing the TT audio stuff as well. I've learned a lot doing audios with them that certainly make doing my own audio series in future that little bit easier. So it is something that I will continue. Exactly when, I don't know, but watch this space, as the saying goes. Beards and stubble, they're always difficult to do. Because you don't want to slather on too much, but you also don't want to not put on too little. It's weird as well because his lips are actually kind of the same sort of tone of his face because he's slightly flushed, but it looks weird if they're the same tone, so I might try and make them a little bit darker, but not by much. No, that doesn't work at all. I suppose I could throw a little bit of red in there and make them slightly pinkish. But again, dab. That's too much.
way too much. Up there, I reckon. I also need to put some around his eyes as well. That's better. Just got a bit more texture to the mouth now.
Oh, my legs.
Keep saying that, it's like, yeah, I know my legs hurt. Okay, so those have got to be silver, but I might put a little bit of metallic grey in those actually, to make them stand out a bit more. It does have like bits on his cheeks. And around that area.
What is your favourite type of Cyberman and Dalek? Well, I don't really have necessarily a favourite type. So my favourite design for the Daleks is the Death of the Daleks one. Cybermen, I do quite like the Revenge ones. I think the Revenge ones or the Invasion ones. I'd probably go Revenge. I like them because they're obviously, you know, robots. You know, they're obviously Cybermen in that sense, but it's kind of like the look of them in that sort of budget way of the show at the time is that, you know, they're clearly people in suits, but I liked the sort of fabricy look to them. Not fabricy, sort of, you know, suit look to them, as if they were actually wearing a silver suit, because I like the idea that they're still sort of got that slight human quality to them, which I think works well, and just makes them that little bit more menacing. So yeah, I'd probably go with Revenge Cybermen, and what did I say? Revenge Cybermen and Death to the Daleks. That's the next question. Does Danny have brown eyes? I think he's got brown eyes. They could be blue, but I think they're brown. They are indeed brown. So I need a little bit more of the dark around his eyes. But not by much. Right, and I would say the problem is he doesn't have eyebrows either as a Cyberman, which is an odd thing to not have. But I might put a little bit of shadow on it because he looks a bit odd without them. And I would say, and this is going to be difficult to show on camera, really, because of the look of him, but I would say that is the Danny Pink Cyberman done. I think he's come out very, very well. So then that leaves us with the Cybermaster and Ashad, but I think I'm going to call an end to the stream there. I apologise that I didn't manage to finish these ones off, but at this rate, I just don't think my voice is going to hold out for one. But B, I do have other things that I've got to be getting on with today. So yes, so for those people, firstly, thank you to everyone who's joined in and enjoyed the stream. The customs that I've done, or the customs that I'm going to finish, everyone, I'm going to be putting them up on Sunday. Please keep a lookout for that. To keep a lookout for those videos, because they will be coming up on Sunday as simple shorts. I really hope that I can get them all finished. I don't see any reason why I can't. As I said, I've already done 5. I've got 2 more to finish. Well, already done 5. I've got 1 that's nearly finished, 1 that I haven't started, so it won't be too long. It won't be too much longer before I get them done. But yes, thank you to everyone for joining the stream today. It's been a lot of fun. I always enjoy doing these streams, always interacting with you. It's always nice to have a chat, and as I say, it's nice to have a chat. It's a very one-sided conversation from my perspective because I'm doing the talking, but I certainly hope that people have enjoyed it. I hope we've covered a range of topics today, and I certainly hope it's been interesting and informative for people. So there's not really a lot left to say other than my usual, I salute you all, and I will see you with another video. Well, several videos this Sunday, and I hope it will not be long before we do another stream again very, very